he has the confidence to pull it off. Morton calls good game. Unbelievable. Sergio Ramos wins! First ever CRL World Champion! Team Liquid is going to be your champion! Moogie 2021! He's done it! World Champion! The Clash Royale League starts now!
As winter snows melt, things are heating up here in Clash Royale League as well as we go into our second monthly final of our 2023 season. And you talk about heat, the last two world champions are here this weekend. Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me as always, my friend Andrew Guy and the World Cyber Games champion, Juicy J in the building. Andrew, we kick things off today with a big matchup. It is hot, hot, hot this weekend.
Beyond the game. Sorry, I just had to do it. If we're going to talk World Cyber Games, we got to throw it out there. What is up, everyone? Exciting day here in CRL. I mean, what a good way to start our second monthly final. The first month, we go with the rematch of the 2022 World Finals. Why not do the same thing for the second month for our 2021 World Finals? It's going to be a very exciting day, and we got Juicy J on the cast. What's up, brother?
I'm doing good. I mean, how about you, bro?
I mean, we're here for CRL, man. I'm ready to go, Rich.
Well, speaking of ready to go, Andrew, let's jump right into it and break down how we're getting where we are and what we're doing today.
That's right. You guys wanted a leaderboard. You guys wanted golden tickets. Well, we got both. And how do you get there? Well, you guys know about the Path of Legends. It's a little bit different this month, but still, it matters to get in that top 1,000. Then we got a 2-day competition. Of course, that competition's double elimination. It's our qualifiers, what you guys saw last week being cast. And that gets us to this weekend, the top 8. Again, double elimination to get to our World Finals. Of course, at the end of every month, we're giving away a golden ticket. There'll be 7 monthly finals, 7 people qualifying through our leaderboard, and of course, 2 more joining them at World Finals. Ooh, that's a lot, but let's just break it down to this weekend. You guys heard me talk about it. Best of 3 to get to that golden ticket for double elimination, of course, in our duel mode, right? It's duel mode. This is not what's going on right now with Mega Draft. This is just duel mode, but it's our in-game duel mode. So those decks have to be pre-made before you join up in that match. And Rich, to get through all of this, it's all about getting those leaderboard points and, of course, the golden ticket.
And no big surprises as we look at our leaderboard. Guess who's on top? Once again, the man you expect, Mohamed Light, back here this weekend after winning our first monthly final. Right behind him, though, the runner-up from last year, Morton at number 2. And Andrew, we have a couple new entries there on the bottom, including a potential Rookie of the Year in Pedro.
Yeah, I mean, Pedro is a big hot contender right now. I know you and Juicy J both think that he's going to take that matchup against Pandora. More on that in just a bit. But after you've seen what he's done in month 1 and in month 2, a lot of things to look out for our number 8 spot there in Pedro. Over on to page number 2 here. Really interesting stuff. I mean, honestly, we were so close to having a flashback to like basically 2019 World Finals. We had obviously Morton, we had Sam, we had Surgical Goblin, we had Igor in the mix, we had Katashi, and there's a lot of people out there, a lot of the greats of the old days are still working hard to get to World Finals in 2023.
And you, again, take a look at the bracket, the most important thing that we care about today, double elimination. And as you see, number 1 match of the day, a rematch of our 2021 World Finals. Ooh. Moogie won that championship. Of course, Molite got revenge the next year. We'll get them early here in 2023. Clown, a.k.a. for you old schoolers, Kick-Ash going up against SK Gaming's OP Sam, who went 6-0 in the group stage. Potential Rookie of the Year, Pedro up against Pandora in what might be the most hotly contested matchup of the day. And then a top contender, a guy who was phenomenal last year, had a great run, Samwell Basoto up against Tico in a big underdog spot. So we'll see how those all shake out. And of course, Juicy J, I'm sure you have a lot to think about here, especially with that very, very close matchup we were just talking about between young Pedro and Pandora.
Yeah, I think you and I, Rich, picked Pedro. Andrew picked Pandora for the predictions there. I think that, I don't want to speak for you, but I think that we picked Pedro because he's been doing really well lately. I mean, obviously he's always a top ladder player, but he's started to shine more with this in-game duels formatting, especially last month with the March qualifiers. I think he's one of the only undefeated players for the first phase of that. So, I mean, that's why I picked him. Why you got Pandora, Andrew? What are you thinking on him?
Honestly, after you break it down there, can we swap the graphic to Pedro here? You know what? The reason why is Pandora. Not only did he become like a good friend of mine when we were in Helsinki, but also I feel like that experience is going to lean in Pandora's favor, even though we saw Pedro do well last month. And also, there's a lot of RG out there in the world right now. And we know Pandora's a very, very good Royal Giant player. I'm thinking that he can maybe get through this first set. I don't think we'll see him in the top 3 at the end of this weekend. I could be wrong there, but I'm still going with my boy Pandora in that matchup.
Well, one thing you don't see there, of course, is what we think the percentages are, right? Like, Mo versus Moogie might be a 55-45, but Samwell versus Tico might be a very different what we think that weight is. We can get into more of that later, but right now, let's jump into what we're all waiting for. People are always saying, where's Mo? Is Mohamed Light playing today? You're darn right, and guess what? The other most popular player on the planet, Moogie, going up against Mohamed Light to kick off our weekend. This is a championship match, so much that it has been a world championship match. And Andrew, we get it here as the first match of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting to see this matchup. You can see right here at World Finals in 2022, the whole crowd was electric. Everyone on the desk, everyone in the room was ready for this rematch because no one really knew what we were going to see. We weren't sure if we were going to see a repeat of what we got in 2021, where Moogie was coming out on top. It seemed impossible, though, because of the way that Mohamed Light was playing in 2022. He seemed unstoppable, and obviously, if you fast forward to the end of those World Finals, it was Mo holding that World Championship trophy. Rich, my biggest thing with Moogie is I don't see him compete a lot other than when I just see him dominating in CRL. I don't watch him on ladder. I don't watch his content. So I don't really know what form we're going to get of Moogie here today.
And I think that's probably the most fair question when it comes to Moogie, because everyone knows from a skill set standpoint that he's phenomenal, but we see so many world champions take their foot off the gas a bit after they win, except for the Prince of Egypt, of course. Juicy, we all three picked Mohamed Light. Most people are picking Mohamed Light, but it seems crazy to see how weighted it is towards Mo when you have a guy like Moogie who probably would be picked as the winner against almost any other competitor on the planet.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it goes back to what Jeebus said on Twitter. Like, I think that at this point, Mohamed Light is to a standard where players just get nervous when they play against him. And he has this aura where he's just win, 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 whether it be ladder, whether it be any tournament that he plays in. I mean, he's just so consistent. And I mean, he's almost to like the chess standard of Magnus Carlsen, where, you know, everyone wants to watch him. Everyone wants to watch him play because he's just the best, the best. Not only does he have that perfect gameplay, but he also has that Jeebus coach behind him, allowing him to make the best deck picks possible. And I think that's what Moogie really struggles with, is getting those really good deck picks.
So we'll have Juicy J join us again in a little bit. For now, let's go ahead, jump in to game number one. Already a little bit in progress between our 2021 world champion Moogie and our 2022 world champion Mohamed Light.
Yeah, I mean, two of the best to ever do it in the game. You love to see it for match number one. And I really love what Juicy pointed out there, talking about Mo kind of getting in competitors' heads just because of his name. When you see that Mohamed Light across from you, or light bulb, or flashlight, whatever it might be, the intimidation factor is through the roof. And that's something that we even talked about last month in the interview, where it was so many of his competitors, the best players in the world, were making uncharacteristic mistakes, because you got to admit, it's terrifying playing against that man at the top of your screen.
Well, so far, no blinking in either direction. Clean sheet on Mohamed's side of the board. A little bit of chip damage down there for Moogie as Mo cycles his arrows one more time. Interesting to see both of the guys coming out with the Bird, Phoenix, in game number one.
Yeah, Bird is really popular right now. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it never really went away that much, but all the reworking on it maybe had people shy a little bit ago. Even though it was technically nerfed again, I feel like because it was nerfed, people went and looked at it a little bit more closely, as they always do with cards that get reworked, and they were like, you know what, Bird's still pretty good. Let's have her hang around for a while.
Minor
Bird's
caught.
Her, right?
Go ahead. Did you remember it her? I actually don't know. I think it's just Bird.
It's
just
Bird.
So here we go. Giant Skeleton deep in enemy territory, trying to get a little cheeky move here to get that Giant Skeleton on board. Doesn't quite do it as the Bar Barrel walked its way on back. And Moogie does go E-Giant out the gate, he has not played E-Giant with Fire Spirit very often. Little swerve here for Moogie in game number 1.
Yeah, and you're thinking, you know, top of your screen here with Mo, most likely going to go to Graveyard, and he's just kind of hanging out, holding on, playing defense for as long as he can. I'm very curious if he's going to have the DPS to burn down these big pushes as we get deeper into double and triple. You can see right now, Moogie able to kind of slow play that for as long as he did, does get the Golden Knight dash on tower, does get that, I think this is the second or third Electro Giant down. So I'm worried about Mo being able to keep up, but it's Mohamed Light.
I'm very curious about what Mohamed Light is saving the Electro Spirit for, because he tends to play, I mean, not Mohamed Light, Moogie. He tends to play Electro Spirit with Royal Giant, but that Royal Giant deck tends to run Lightning. So very curious to see how this develops as we go on. But for now, it's the lead for Moogie, 24-54 to 28-30 as we go into sudden death overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious if it's maybe just to save one of the other spirits, but it could be to help take archers off the board, right? If you can get a barrel or NATO plus a fire spirit, you can take care of archers, and he doesn't have a great way to get on top of him otherwise, but also trying to find that, oh yeah, wow, Graveyard, yeah. I keep forgetting that this is a thing again. This deck, this giant skeleton balloon deck is really, really popular right now, and it's really annoying to play against. Maybe that's why I blocked it out of my memory.
Cannon doing its job, 24-91, lead shrinking now for Moogie, if you look crosswise on our towers. As we go into triple elixir, here we see Moogie starting to put up the pace. Electro Giant, Golden Knight, left-hand lane, minor chip. Will it be enough? And the late cannon not going to prevent that damage.
High bomb tower here as another Electro Giant comes down. As we're in triple elixir, this is where things are going to get interesting. Mo not able to get a lot of damage, but he does have that damage lead. Obviously, Moogie has the spell power conversation taken care of, which is why you see Mo starting to cycle.
And you see that. You see the balloon going away from the bird lane, and now Moogie doubling down on the Electro Giant plus Phoenix, bar barrel behind. That balloon going to go to King Tower with the NATO. Minor getting its chip damage in. 25 seconds left. Mohamed Light playing a gem right now.
Yeah, I mean, that 1939 on that bottom right-hand corner, this is kind of Moogie's last-ditch effort, and just a lightning won't be enough. You see the high bomb tower here met with a cannon. Beautiful stuff here from Mohamed Light. And, I mean, hey, man, that's about as clean as you can play it. Incredibly patient. Bit of a missed call by me there on the desk in terms of the win condition, but still didn't come out till the very end and was pretty much a non-factor. Just a little bit of damage there. Beautiful patience from the best in the world.
GG, well played. Great first game here from Mohamed Light. Didn't need balloon damage. Just needed that minor chip, a little bit of spell damage as well. And, you know, we take a look at this. NATO out on the side of Moogie. Mohamed Light going with minor loon. We'll see if he is playing maybe Hog in here as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, with Giant Skeleton out, it seems a little bit less likely just because they've been coupled so much together lately. And then seeing Zappies, could be Hogs, could be RG. RG's been pretty popular lately. Big shout out to Royale API. I almost forgot that we have this incredible stat sheet at our disposal. It's very similar to what we had at World Finals, so a lot of fun stuff on there. And when you look at what Mo's been playing, it's not very surprising to see Royal Giant come out here. He's been playing at 88% of his matches that he's been having here at CRL over the last couple weeks.
Wall breakers will get one connection for Moogie, but the damage, the opposite, is absolutely wild. You see, wow. And yeah, Mohamed Light is absolutely tickled. Maybe a little joking from his coaches. That is a lot of early damage that I don't think either player was anticipating.
No, I mean, it's game over, too. When you, I mean, Mohamed Light would have to have such a massive cascading of uncharacteristic mistakes to happen over the next 2 minutes, because when you're looking at the deck that's being played by Moogie, yes, it can hit hard and it can hit fast, but when you look at all the control that Mo has, the ability to get on top of that drill, the ability to kind of stun and slow the Mighty Miner, and of course that Skeleton King to help with DPSing, and of course getting on top of the drill, it's just kind of an uphill battle no matter what, and then a terrible start for Moogie.
And you can see how much both of the analysts for Moogie and Mohamed Light are kind of going deep, digging deep here in this upper bracket matchup. Moogie playing two variations. He has not played against top 16 opponents this entire month of April. right? So this drill variation, drill wall breaker is different for him than he's been playing throughout this competition so far. Same thing with that E-Giant variation. You see Mohamed Light as well. So already very interesting to see the analysts going the extra mile to make sure this first match is a win.
And everything is really bouncing in Mo's way. You see him smiling there, the Royal Giant body blocking those wall breakers just enough. He doesn't have to spend any more on them. The predictive zappies getting on top of the Mighty Miner. I mean, it's just all kind of easy mode here for Mohamed Light. And, you know, you wonder if that moment in 2021 will be kind of Moogie's best moment against Mohamed Light. Obviously, a lot more to be said in 2023.
Well, it's fascinating, too. Both of the times that we've seen them on a big stage, right, you have, or all the times we've seen them, right? So you're talking about in a golden ticket final where Mohamed Light won and Moogie got second, but got the golden ticket because Mo already had one. You talk about World Finals in 2021. Talk about World Finals in 2022. When these guys typically meet each other, it's an elimination match. So this is one of the rare times that we see them go head-to-head in a competition where one of them still has a life to give. Moogie could come back, and we could see this same thing roll through again one more time today.
Well, I think that's a really fun thing that you point out, because honestly, if you're in this competition, you want to be in the opposite side of the bracket as Mohamed Light. And if he's going to start off today being in the upper bracket, that means you want to go down to the lower bracket and just kind of work your way through there and hope that you meet him in our grand championship, because just like you said, Rich, yeah, he's here for the money today. He's already got that golden ticket. It was easy, it was quick, but he's not pulling a Basoto from 2022. He's going to stick around and try to win every single month's prize purse because he can, and unless someone's going to stop him, he will.
And that's a really important thing to note here for all of you watching at home. Mohamed Light does already have a golden ticket, a secured trip to our World Finals. So you talk about what happens this weekend. If Mohamed Light does win this monthly final, the runner-up, the second place person, would take home that golden ticket and a trip to Worlds. So that is a very important note here as we talk about all of it. And as we just look at the absolute devastation in the right-hand lane, and you want to talk about Jeba's cooking over there for Mohamed Light with the picks. What better pick can you get than this deck against all the different ways to feed a Mother Witch that were on the side, Mother Witch and a Skeleton King both from the side of Moogie. So very, very nicely picked over there by Mohamed and Jebez and that whole team, and a scary winners bracket first round win.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we haven't even talked about yet is just like when you're going against someone that has nothing to lose, it's already a pretty scary opponent. And then you go and you add the best in the world kind of on that resume, and it becomes even worse because Mo Light really has nothing to lose until we get to World Finals and he's in an elimination match. Until that moment, he's just playing for fun and playing for money. And when you're playing against that guy with that confidence, it becomes a very difficult situation to be in.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there, right? That guy with nothing to lose. Those two things together are absolutely insane. And we see the result right here. Let's look at our bracket as Mohamed Light will take one step forward. You can bet that Clown and OP Sam were both half preparing and half keeping their eye on the screen going, please, 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 let it be Moogie. It's so funny to see someone hoping that they're going to face Moogie, right? You're praying for Moogie, and then, of course, it ends up being Mohamed Light. So the winner of our next match, Clown and OP Sam, will go ahead and take on Mohamed Light in our next round. Pedro, Pandora, Samwell, and Tico, as you were kind of put it perfectly, are probably really happy to find themselves on that other end of the winner's bracket. And if we go down into the lower bracket here, you will also see that Moogie down but not out. We are, of course, in a double elimination format for this weekend, so everyone has one life to give. Moogie has given his life, and we will see him again, just not right now.
Juicy J, any thoughts on what you just saw in that matchup between Mo and Moogie before we get into our next matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys touched on that second matchup, like the Mother Witch for all of the spam cards, but the Zappies as well for that Mighty Miner, allowing the RG to just go crazy. In that first matchup, though, I definitely think Moogie should have won that. I just didn't see him cycle enough lightnings. Like, throughout the match, he was just kept trying to outcycle that bomb tower with the E-Giants. But if you just cycle lightnings on each bomb tower throughout that match, he should be able to win. And I think that's just going back to that Mohamed Light effect. I think Moogie's just, like, maybe not playing to his utmost potential. Maybe a little bit nervous versus the world champ.
When you talk about potential... Oh, as I say, Andrew, you talk about utmost potential. Our next matchup, you're talking about two guys who, one is beginning to realize some potential in terms of Clown, formerly known as Kick Ash, and then another guy who always was right there and maybe finally, Andrew, correcting, going 6-0 in the group stage Is this the time where we see OP Sam finally take the spotlight?
I mean, that last sentence there just put a big smile on my face. We love Sam. We've loved Sam since the first time we've ever called a match of Sam's, and to see him kind of take a couple-year hiatus from the main competitive scene and to now see him back here, I'm excited, man. I mean, Kickash, I'm a fan as well. I've watched him for a while. I'm very glad that he changed his name to Clown because I'm not trying to drop a Kickash the wrong way on broadcast, so much appreciated there. But when it just comes down to who we're watching here, I don't do this a lot on the desk, but it's just a total fan favorite in Sam. I hope that you're right. I hope that he's found his footing. I hope that he's in his utmost form of what you're talking about. 6-0 through the qualifiers. There's a lot of big names out there, so maybe, just maybe, Sam has the time now and the maturity to hit his final form.
And, you know, Juicy, when we're talking about his opponent here in Clown, and those of you who watch the Snapdragon Pro Series might have heard us call him Boom Clown a whole lot over there. I know that you're more familiar with him as a player. Thoughts on how he matches up against OP Sam in this one?
You know, it's an interesting matchup. I believe Clown is a mortar rocket one trick on ladder, whereas Sam, you know, he can play anything. I mean, not only anything, but he actually prefers to play some crazy decks a lot of the time. It'll be an interesting matchup. I mean, it's like the standard like one trick versus like a guy who, you know, really could pull out the stops, but we'll see how it goes. And we're hopping into the first game already. Looks like Clown is going to the comfort here with a mortar, but a hog rider here instead of a rocket for the main win condition. And Sam using his sand type deck, the giant skelly zabbies, gob cage, something that we don't always see every day.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Sam has always been an innovator. Still looking like it could be Royal Giant, but also could maybe go to Balloon just because we've seen a lot of Giant Skeleton Balloon together. Juicy, when you talk about Kickash, I'm very curious because, first of all, I know how you feel about people that rocket cycle, but we won't get into that. But more importantly, how do you feel about rocket cycling at the highest level? Does it really ever work? I feel like we've seen it so seldom. There's obviously the minor Dark Prince Inferno Tower rocket deck, but that's really more about the minor control, not just about rocket cycling. Does it work at the highest level?
That's a great question. I think for like one season where last season or just a couple of months ago, like where the rocket was really prevalent, like it was viable. After the rocket nerf, like a huge crown tower damage nerf, like the rocket is probably one of the worst spells in the game. It just doesn't get that value, and it's definitely not viable anymore, in my opinion.
Are you happy about that, Juice?
I'm so happy about that.
As we work here into our final minute of regulation, a graveyard does come out here for Sam. It's going to be GY, so there we go. 2 missed calls for me to start the day. It is a flashback to 2019.
Yeah, I mean, Giant Skelly King Graveyard, I call this the double big hoss graveyard. Snowball and the arrows for the spells. You know, Snowball arrows, great combo with Graveyard, able to clear out those swarm units, but also Snowball kind of like a mini freeze, just slowing things down to allow those skeletons to connect. We have Clown here with a huge push, though. The mortar connection, the Hog Rider, Mighty Miner, and Musketeer come down the lane.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, all bad right now for Sam. Another mortar shot. It's going to get that third mortar shot in. Musketeer's up high, protecting a huge counter push, though, for Clown to deal with. But that delivery's been showing up all over the place, and I'm all for it. I'm a huge fan of Royal Delivery. One of the more interesting and fun cards in the game, and it's so strong when used correctly, as you guys just saw right there.
Yeah, very underrated defensive card here. As we hop into overtime, I think that is going to be game over. Clown with the arrows to the graveyard. Hog Rider just coming in and wiping everything out, and that's going to be Clown victory. Game 1 is duels formatting. None of these cards can be repeated for the second match. We'll see what Sam and Clown pull out for this next game. We're hopping straight into it.
Very curious of what Sam kind of did wrong there with that massive push that happened at the bridge. At the end, it was kind of a swing for the fences, just hoping he could get anything out of it. The arrows coming out on top of the guards was like a nice thought for Sam, but it was really just a last-ditch effort. It kind of fell off the rails when he just got destroyed elixir-wise at the bridge there, and Clown was able to just pour it on.
Yeah, that Royal Delivery really cleaned up, and then by the time those arrows came out, the tank for the Graveyard was already dead. That's the thing about Graveyard, it's a win condition where you need a support to go with it. It's not like a miner or a Goblin Barrel or a drill. You need some sort of tank to make sure that that tower is distracted to get those skeletons to connect.
There was a lot of ways for Clown to deal with those skellies as well. He had Log, he had Earthquake, he had the guards. So really tough there for Sam in game 1. Let's see if he can turn things around here in game number 2. Looking like it's RG, but I've been wrong twice already today, and there's only been 2 matches. So here we go.
You're absolutely right this time. Sam with a Monk RG here at the bottom. Clown, what looks to be the Golden Knight Drill Bridge Spam deck with like the Executioner Tornado combo as well. Gotta watch out for those Executioners after a buff a few months ago. They're almost like the Magic Archer now. Just a couple of steps across the bridge there and you can get some nice shots on the tower sometimes.
It's surprising, though, that this deck that's being played by Clown was really, really popular for a while, and then for some reason it feels like the Xe just got forgotten about and the Magic Archer came back into the meta. I don't know if you know why that happened or if you agree, but it feels like I haven't seen this version as much as we did for things that didn't really change in the meta.
Yeah, Magic Archer absolutely the better kind of secondary win condition. Executioner a little bit stronger on the defense. I think overall here in this matchup, the Executioners be maybe not as good just because Sam most likely gonna have a lightning to help clean that entire elixir card off the board.
So final 1 minute here of regulation as both them pretty healthy. Sam obviously untouched. Clown though only missing about 400 HP.
Yeah,
and
I mean, overall in this matchup, I think that Sam's got a decent one. A lot of the time, as we could already see, you know, Clown basically forced to use the win condition, the drill on the defense versus the RG. That being said, I'd say that the longer this match goes on, the more chances Clown has. All you need, like, you really just need to have like a really good defense and counter push with like a bunch of different units.
So Royal Giant here on the tower as the Monk goes invincible, but isn't tanking for it. Now is tanking and doesn't get much out of it, kind of walking around in no man's land. 1756 though to 2 untouched towers here for Sam. Golden Knight does not connect. Great last second Electro Spirit there by Sam, who was holding the line firm here at the bridge. Clown just pouring it on.
Absolutely. Electro is one of the best counters to this fish boy. Here comes the drill in the counter bush. The Ghost is so good. One of the best counters to drill though. While the Monk takes care of everything up top. Log gonna come through, clean everything up. E-Spirit just to make sure that Golden Knight doesn't dash and stun everything up.
Yeah.
And Ghost just cleaning up the rest of this defense. I think Phoenix another really underrated card in this matchup as well. I mean, Clown doesn't really have the best way to deal with it. And it's always able to just soar above those ground units and take everything out.
Yeah, you love that Sam's recognized that. Always tucking that Phoenix behind the Royal Giant. You can see Boom Clown Kick-Ash has no idea how to get on top of it. Lightning comes in, and now with 2 towers that have taken about 20-ish damage against a tower that only has 800 HP remaining, Clown needs to have a miracle happen here. I mean, he hasn't been able to get the pile up, he hasn't been able to get the NATO dash, he hasn't been able to get the lineup with the Xe, and he hasn't been able to get goblins to do anything from the drill. So I think we are going to be going to a game number 3 here, as the drill comes down defensively, but the Phoenix is on top of it instantly. GG, well played. Well, Clown's making him work for it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's definitely having to work for it, but I don't think that Clown's going to be able to come back here. Now, he's going in with a big push here with the Executioner and the Golden Knight, but Lightning, one more log, and that is going to be game. We'll see what happens in this game 3. Anything could happen, but beautiful gameplay there from Sam there, making a potential reverse sweep here.
So, Juicy, we've had 2 pretty dominant games here, one going in favor of Clown or Kick-Ash and one going in favor of Sam. Obviously, game 2, it felt like there was a lot more work that went into it for both of them, whereas it felt like Clown had kind of dominated game number 1. Do you think that's skill? Do you think it's nerves? Do you think it was just a matchup situation?
I definitely think it's a matchup situation. I mean, we talked about the Lightning and the Ghost and the RG matchup. In the game 1, you know, so many counters of Graveyard, the Guards, the Earthquake, the Log, and also Mortar, one of the best win conditions versus Graveyard decks. A lot of the time, Graveyard decks don't have a great way to kill it. But we're hovering in game 3 now. Same with the Mighty Miner, Goblins, Archers. This could be Miner or Hog. Miner's going to come out here. Clown with what looks to be a Ram Rider, Monk, Bridge Spam.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure who has matchup here, but I would say that Sam's definitely in the driver's seat just because normally control decks do quite well versus a Bridge Spam deck. But depending on the defensive building from Sam, maybe a berry, like a bomb tower or a mortar, the Monk could get some crazy value in later elixir time.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make. And I was just going to say, most likely probably having the bomb tower could have the cannon, and maybe that's where Kick Ash can find a moment to break on through. But already Sam very firmly, again, in the driver's seat. Like you said, not just because of the matchup conversation, but he's just been playing this well.
Absolutely.
Clown's been having to play a lot of, negative elixir trades, even just something as minimal or as big, whatever you want to chalk it up as, is having to fireball those wall breakers that early on. Just puts Sam in just gives Sam confidence when you see things like that happen.
And that's the thing about Clash at this level. Even the small things can be extremely big. And yeah, Sam in the damage lead right now. Single elixir definitely good for the miner here. Always getting those positive elixir trades with the cheap quick cycle cards. 9 seconds until double time though. Maybe Clown can make and stack up a huge monk bridge spam push in order to break through.
The one thing about this deck that Sam's running is it doesn't usually run Fireball, so maybe there's an opportunity for some Magic Archer lineups, but I'm sure Sam will be looking for that as being one of the biggest threats, since he should be able to just control that Ram Rider.
Absolutely. Here comes a roll delivery actually on the defense. That's going to help versus the monk, but the bomb tower is going to get deflected one shot, but overall going to be some solid defense here. See if the Ram Rider is able to connect with his rage.
She will.
And it does. Wow.
And that's an interesting moment there because, Sam kind of saw everything that was coming his way, and Clown also knew everything that Sam was going to play, and Clown ends up getting a connection out of all of it when it's all said and done. So it does bounce in favor of Clown here, at least in that interaction.
100% bomb tower on the left here trying to defend this lumberjack. Ram Rider push. Monk on the right getting some nice chip. Ram Rider not going to connect. Mighty Miner charging up quickly to take that out. But Mighty Miner counter pushing from OP Sam right now. We'll see if he makes something with it with the 3-card cycle. Magic Archer on the defense. Here comes the Miner wall breakers and Goblin's right hand side. Poison on this. Rage was Goblin's defends almost everything. Miner does chip away quite a bit though.
Yeah, Sam working all the way back around, kind of selling out there to make sure he'd get the poison on top of that Magic Archer because he used it pretty recently. But then, like you called out, just going for a sellout push because there isn't really great splash damage. It isn't a great spell like a log to clean it up. But that Rage, man, still, I mean, I think that's one of the best reworks you could have done with Rage. I still don't think it's excellent, but I think it has made it a lot more viable. And there we go, Magic Archer lineup like we talked about.
Poison and ability going to try and clean everything up, and that will be exactly what happens. Archers plus wall breakers, bridge left hand side, Goblins as well. Fireball's going to drop on the wall breakers and a rage on everything else. Pretty solid defense from Clown. He's just, taking it slow. He's the damage lead right now, and he's trying to hold on to it, and that's what Clash Royale this level is a lot about. I mean, try and get that damage lead and try and hold on to that.
Yeah, and Sam now trying to figure out how he's going to fix those pushes, right? He's tried it a couple times now where he's kind of doing a sellout push. Again, doesn't have a spell to deal with it, is Kick Ash or Clown, but now the Fireball plus Rage combo has started to work. And Sam finding himself down in Elixir again.
And look at that dual rain pressure. Ram Rider one side, Lumberjack and a Monk.
Inferno on tower. That's it.
That is going to be game, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Clown upset here versus OP Sam. And he's all smiles. He took that dub. He's, I mean, I'd definitely be happy after something like that.
Yeah, you can see Sam frustrated. I mean, that's now in game 1 and in game 3. I feel like game 1 was definitely, like we talked about, a little bit more of a matchup conversation. Had so many responses for that graveyard. The Royal Delivery was excellent. But then in game number 3, we kind of saw a repeat of what happened in game 1. Not because of a complete matchup conversation, but just where Sam overspent a lot and had a ton of elixir to deal with on his opponent's side. Juicy, what's going on here?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing that didn't happen on that defense was a nice centralized bomb tower. A lot of the time when you're using miner control, you need a centralized bomb tower, and you need to pull everything in the middle to deal with that dual lane pressure. Instead, he was trying to defend on both sides without pulling everything into the middle to try and work together to kill it all together with maybe like a roll delivery. And that's what that's what made it so that Clown was just able to completely destroy that dual lane pressure, and Sam just didn't have enough elixir to deal with it all.
Yeah, and you can see right there in that replay, it's kind of where all things started to fall off the wheels or fall off the rails there for OP Sam. It felt like he was in control for most of that game. It felt like if he just kind of replicated what he was doing, he would have been all right. But then you saw that Clown adjusted the way he wanted to play his defenses. Fireballs plus Rage ended up paying off very, very well. Also ended up being even elixir trades. And then it seemed like Sam kind of hit a wall. He didn't really know what to do after that. So great stuff there. Obviously going to keep on working through both of them still in the conversation and in the competition. This is a double elimination situation. But if we look at the bracket, we'll be able to see here two very, very interesting matchups, right? You're going up against a world champion no matter what, but one of them's Muhammad Light, the other one is Moogie. So I'm very excited to see Sam and Moogie play against each other. I can't think of a time in history. Juicy, can you think of a time when we've seen the two of them play off against one another?
I don't think so. I mean, Moogie was a lot younger, or I think too young to play in competitions when Sam was kind of in his prime. It'll definitely be good to see that. Next matchup coming up here. Oh, it just went off the screen. Moogie, I mean,
Pedro and Pandora, which is it was Pedro Pandora, which is the one that actually is perfect time for us to talk about, because not only was it the one that we all kind of, not all of us, but I saw differently than you guys, but it's our next matchup of the day. So Moogie and Sam bottom there in our first elimination matchup. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Rich, welcome back to the broadcast, my friend. Sam was back. We were all incorrect on picking Sam. Anything that you want to point out on that before we get to the next match and I say goodbye?
Well, big one here is that a lot of players working with coaches, Kick-Ash, Clown, having some analysis to help figure out what he's going up against, but all the deck picks his own. So you talk about the sort of impressiveness, not only very well played here, but this is a guy who took the analysis that he got from people he worked with and then made those picks and deck constructions all on his own, which is even more impressive in a situation like this one.
Yeah, I mean, and very, very well played, like you said, but being able to pick your own decks, you're going to need an analyst and a coach at some point, but to be able to do it here right now, very good stuff.
Very good stuff indeed. And now we're going to transition on to our next match of the day. And you talk about more matches that are hotly contested. You know, we got one wrong. The question now is, do we get back on track? Pandora against Pedro and Juicy. Interesting note here between these two. Pandora tends to play a lot heavier, and in earlier rounds, undefeated 9-0 with E-Giant and 3-0 with Lava Hound. On the other side, Pedro undefeated with Mortar and with Hog Rider.
I mean, makes sense. You know, Pedro, a really good control player. Mortar, Hog Rider, that's definitely his bread and butter. Interesting to hear about the Lava Hound, though. I was looking at the stats this morning, and I saw 4 games, 100% win rate for CRL for Lava Hound, and that's crazy that 3 of them are from Pandora. Generally, with that sort of matchup with heavier versus control will have a bit of an advantage. You do have to watch out from the Pedro side of things, though, because if Pandora does bring out that Lava Hound and you are using a control deck with Archer Queen, for example, sometimes the Lava Hound can just completely steamroll since you can only have 1 Archer Queen on the board. So that's kind of my thoughts here for the upcoming match. About 50 seconds until we start it up. Do you have any thoughts on like the matchup or the gameplay here, or?
Well, Andrew, I want to toss this question to you because going back to that same idea of Pandora kind of going heavier than a lot of our players going, especially heavier than his immediate opponent here in Pedro. He's tended to lean on Lava Hound and E-Giant in game number 2 specifically. Not game number 1, not game number 3. Game number 2 is where he tends to pull those 2 things out. Do you think that's the safe bet here? And do you think that his opponent is analyzing to that level? Or do you think that maybe it's time to switch things up and go a different direction, maybe game 1 or game 3 with one of those picks?
You know, I think if I'm Pandora, because you look at, there's only really 4 matches that he played. They were all against Surgical Goblin, at least in this month. And he was incredibly successful, and he did go very, very heavy for most of it. Rich, I honestly, I think if I'm Pandora and I'm about to get out of here, I go heavy in game 1, and then I try to change it up for game number 2.
And here we go, on to our matchup. Pedro, top of your screen, Pandora at the bottom. And Pedro coming out with Juicy, the newly buffed Mega Minion. What do you think about Mega Minion in its current state?
I still think, you know, even after the Mega Minion buff and the Phoenix nerf, I still think that Mega Minion is just a worse version of the Phoenix. Buff wasn't super, like, noticeable for me. Matchup here, we got the Golden Knight, Magic Archer Tornado versus Pedro using that Giant Skelly Loon deck, and we already have a huge Magic Archer connection for Pandora to start this one off.
And here we go, Loon behind the Giant Skeleton. This is a lot of trouble, defensive drill required to pick this one up. And of course, that's exactly what Pandora doesn't want to have to do, but he should have NATO here. There you go, NATO does pull for the King Tower activation. Okay start here, and a nice connection from the Golden Knight for Pandora.
Yeah, really good defense there. That's the thing about drill. You can use it on defense and offense, kind of having that double use. That's why so many different cards, so many different spam cards can fit in a deck like this. Pedro not looking great, especially at that Gold Knight connection, like you said. Overall, I'd definitely say Pandora has a solid matchup here. Gold Knight for the archers, NATO for the balloon. You never know, though. Giant Skelly's such a good tank for the balloon. Maybe Pedro can find a way to break through in the double elixir.
And Giant Skeleton meets the Dark Prince on the left-hand side. First 2 minutes of gameplay away. Lead for Pandora as Pedro goes to the second Loon push. Miner going for the tower. Is this now just the choice on the side of Pedro that he's going to go for Miner chip with the Giant Skeleton and Loon tanking rather than trying to go for Loon connections?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw it played pretty well by Muhammad Light in the first match of the day. A lot of the time with a matchup like this where maybe you're not going to get those balloon connections, you can just go for the Miner chip throughout the match. But at the same time, we might see Pedro at some point trying to go for a prediction miner on top of either the Magic Archer or Deflect Wiz right here, right on top of the Magic Archer to try and get the balloon to connect. Whether it be the balloon damage itself or at least just trying to get that death damage to try and chip away until throughout the match.
How important is it for Pedro to try to force out defensive NATOs like we saw there and prevent more Golden Knight connections?
I mean, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. Tornado is definitely a card that Pandora wants to use on the offense as well. This unrelenting pressure from Pedro is doing just that. It's forcing out the defensive NATOs and the defensive drills, and Pandora's never finding a moment to kind of attack right now. Maybe can find one at the moment with the Dark Prince off lane, but here comes another Giant Skelly at the bridge.
Pressure from Pedro is immense. Bomb tower going to be used to defend against this Dark Prince. Giant snowball pushing stuff out of lane here. That isn't a go send everything over to the weak hand side. Arrows to clean up, but now drill Golden Knight from Pandora. Just under 90 seconds left. Pandora no longer has the lead. 2181 to 2108. And just like that, the Goblin Drill takes it back.
Goblin Drill, huge connection. A bit of a misplay there from Pedro, pushing the Magic Archer away from the Giant Skelly instead of towards, and that's what's allowed Pandora to have this moment to finally attack. As we head into triple elixir, Pandora might be able to just take this dub right here. He just needs to continually apply this pressure. Here comes the balloon, though. He has to do something on defense here, forcing another defensive drill.
Ewiz goes the opposite direction, all the way back around to another Ewiz now that we are in triple elixir. Things looking very difficult for Pedro here in game number 1. 1673 to 1912. Starting to get back in this one, though. Under 300 HP separating these two players. Arrow snowball just to get all of that off the board, and it does. Defensive miner gonna have to hold on here. Cannon cart connects on the left-hand side.
Really good drill defense on the right. Pedro needs to attack right now. Gold Knight's going to get picked up. Really nice block of the bridge from the Dark Prince here, making so if he did go for the balloon, it would go in front of the Giant Skelly. And this bridge block with everything is just making it so this balloon is never finding a way to connect.
Skeletons try to predict the miner in the back. This time miner does go to the back behind the Skeletons. NATO pulls the balloon away. Arrows and snowball trying to do it. 12-21, not gonna work. Pandora takes game number 1.
Beautiful gameplay from Pandora there. The Magic Archer connections, the sneaky ones on the one Archer here and there, definitely secured him that game. Magic Archer being the main win condition there just because he was not able to get that drill to connect. Good stuff for realizing that. And yeah, I don't think Pedro had enough to break through there. I think he maybe need to get more miners on the back of the tower and be a little bit smarter with the snowball in order to win that match.
Pandora has gone Lava Hound in game 2 quite a lot, particularly against Surgical Goblin twice, both times getting the dub. So let's see if he goes that direction as well. Probably not going to, seeing the Goblins as the first card out.
Goblins out here. Pedro with an E-Spirit, Earthquake from Pandora. Most likely going to be Monk RG at the top from Pedro versus a Hog Earthquake versus Pandora. Here comes a Giant Skelly in the back. Most likely still that Hog Earthquake. Like I said, Giant Skelly, grain tank for the Hog. And it's also going to deal with this Monk quite well.
Bird and Monk going to go ahead and meet up high. He does turn on the reflection, but little problem there for Pedro. Archer Queen looking at the Phoenix rather than at the Monk, and that Monk ability does almost nothing there for Pedro.
Hunter and Barbro going to clean up this defense pretty well. Queen ability is not back in cycle. And Dusk going to settle. Pandora's up about a Hog hit and a Log hit. And the Elixir is about even. Let's see what Pedro decides to do at this point. I think he would switch lanes. I think generally with the heavier deck, you want to go same lane as your opponent in this situation. Here goes the E-Spear and the Ice Spear at the bridge going to meet since they were even elixir. And a Phoenix back from Pedro. Pandora with that Giant Skelly getting ready for some defense.
And setting up Monk way in the back here. With the Monk, right? I mean, you really have this primary target for reflection in the Archer Queen, but it seems like we're seeing the goal of the Monk in this matchup maybe to control the Giant Skeleton more using that knockback ability.
Definitely control the Giant Skelly, and also deflect these bomb tower shots. Later in this match, we're going to see some huge pushes roll through with the Monk tanking for the RG and the deflection on the bomb tower in order to get that huge RG connection. And I think that's going to be a huge struggle for Pandora. I mean, later in this match, like as we head into double elixir, it's going to be more and more difficult to defend big stuff like that. And having the Earthquake as the big spell means that it's very difficult to deal with the other spam units and those big pushes with the Phoenix and the Hunter and all that as well.
And this time Monk looking to take care of the Archer Queen. She is very low on elixir, but ability does come out. She's gone. And now with 6 elixir, Pedro opts to play the Phoenix in the back and continuing to bide his time and wait for the right moment to take that first big offensive swing.
And that's the thing about having or needing the Monk for multiple uses here. Pedro really can't go in unless he has the Monkey Cycle. That's why he's opting to kind of just chill and make some waiting plays with the Phoenix in the back and wait for that Monk to be back in hand.
Now here we go, Monk plus Fishboy, left-hand lane. And here is the Royal Giant all the way behind. Immediate hog of the opposite lane. Pedro does get back to a Fisherman, gonna give up one shot, but will activate the King Tower as we go into our sudden death period.
A really good defense from Pandora there with a nice bomb tower placement, making it so that the Monk did not deflect. Giant Skelly trying to get on the tower here, but the E-Spear gonna push back just enough to prevent that connection. Phoenix in the back here from Pedro. Pedro's trying to make a good play, like maybe a dual lane pressure, maybe stack up a huge push to break through. But Pandora doing a great job of just controlling this match and waiting with the bomb tower to prevent Monk value.
Giant Skeleton, Hog, Fishboy trying to contend with it. Electro Spirit not going to be enough. Force out Fireball plus Barb Barrel and gives up 2 Hog shots anyway. Pandora looking better and better as time goes on.
Absolutely, the Hog Rider seemingly always getting a hit in this matchup so far. Heading to triple elixir. Pedro needs a Monk RG push now to break through. Here comes the Monk at the bridge. Here comes the RG next. Hog Rider in the ops lane, pressuring once again though. And it's the pressure while defending that's helping him out a lot.
Wow.
Phoenix gonna get taken out by the Queen here, and the Fireball's gonna miss the Queen with the Phoenix Death Explosion, pushing it away. Log does deflect here. Fisherman pulls the Queen in. RG's trying to connect for one more shot, but the Ice Spear prevents that. And we're 30 seconds left. Pre-Hunter for the Hog. I don't know if Pedro's gonna be able to get enough damage to win this game.
RG in behind the Monk. Fisherman going to pull the Giant Skeleton behind. Archer Queen goes to the Royal Giant and not to the Monk. RG trying to get a lot of shots in. Gets in one, gets in another one. 12:54, 14 seconds left. New Royal Giant down. Hog goes opposite direction. Pedro has to defend and create damage at the same time. He does pull the Hog, but the Bomb Tower high will get it done. And that's a GG well played. Pandora pumps his fist in celebration. A beautiful 2-0 win.
Great game from Pandora. The micro interactions were on point. He was able to defend very nicely with the delayed bomb towers. And not to mention at the end, they're pulling that Monk backwards, allowing the Arch Queen and the bomb tower to connect onto the RGs. And not to mention those Hog Riders always pressuring the ops lane every time Pedro's trying to go in. Absolutely beautiful gameplay. It doesn't get more perfect than that.
Well, you know, you talk about the matchup question, right? And we've seen Pandora leaning so heavily on things like Electro Giant in game number 2, leaning heavily on Lava Hound in game number 2, playing some Royal Giant as well. And yeah, especially with Electro Giant being the most likely possibility there, you can see where maybe Pedro was thinking that direction. Great change here from Pandora to go with the Hog Cycle deck instead. And you saw just the defensive answers weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one more thing I'll say about the matchup that I think that Pedro could have done differently is, like I said earlier, I think he had to go same lane. because every time he's making this ops lane push, the Hog Rider's going to the ops lane, applying that pressure and making it so he couldn't stack up. If he goes same lane though, he's able to prevent something like that from happening. But Pedro just so used to using those Hog Rider, those quick cycle decks, the mortar decks, and having opposite lane pressure. He's more comfortable going ops lane, and that was his downfall in this match.
So far today, it has been a lot of 2-0s. We have not been getting into that third decision-making set as much as normal, with Pandora taking this nice 2-0, and of course our opening matchup going 2-0 as well. It does feel a little different though here, Juicy, when we're talking about with your deck construction, since we're not looking at people playing classic duels where you don't pre-submit or pre-build your decks. It seems like, you know, I'm looking at what Pandora ran here, and he had most likely Lava Hound and RG as the two decks that were open as his possible game 3. Is there much value in getting the 2-0 win here for these players because the deck sets are a little bit more predictable once you know two decks? Or is there still a lot of value in getting that and protecting what that game 3 choice might have been?
You know, it's a great question. I mean, generally with the deck building, you have a few options. Like you have one deck that's gonna be like Hog or RG. You have a control deck that's like Drill or Miner. You have a fireball bait like Pigs or Lava Hound. And then the fourth one can be kind of whatever you're looking at, maybe another cycle deck or another comfort deck. Generally, I would say that there are going to be more 2-0 sweeps in the in-game duels formatting, like you said, just because the deck restrictions are a lot heavier and maybe predictions, or maybe there's more like luck involved with the actual deck picking and the countering and stuff like that. But, you know, it is tough to say. I'm not 100% sure.
You know, Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, you said you wanted to switch your pick. So your celebration, absolutely. Let's just put the cap on that one right here.
Nope, didn't switch it. Still winning. Number 1 in picks on the day. Let's go.
Good stuff.
You know, I got to say, Juicy, you called it perfectly. That snowball in game number 1 was the ultimate game changer. It was so crazy there. As we look here at the bracket, we're going to get into Samwell and Tico in just a minute. You can see Pandora working through the uppers as we get our second matchup in the lower bracket beginning to get set. Pedro will play against the loser of Tico versus Samwell Basoto. But back to Pandora, that snowball, the patience that we saw from him in both of those games was exactly what I want to see at this level. Then you go into game number 2, brilliant defenses over and over and over. He knew when to play the goblins to look for that barbell. Then he get the ice spirit back down. Then he gets second bomb tower in. Just beautiful sequencing all the way through. And Pedro played very, very well. It was just Pandora was at that X level today.
And you talk about our bracket situation here. You see 4 players now going to be on the chopping block, so the stress for them going to increase significantly as our games go on. And we still have one more clean game coming up next year, Andrew, in our last upper bracket first round matchup between a player who, from a talent perspective, has all the talent you could possibly ask for. The question is always with this player is how much effort is Samwell Basoto putting in, and does Tico have an opportunity for a big upset here against, you know, a guy who was phenomenal at World Finals this year?
Yeah, I mean, Sam is one of those fascinating conversations in the game of Clash Royale, and specifically at the highest level of competition, because he's kind of like what you would think SB would be times maybe like 10, right? SB is a guy that plays even less than Sam, but he still has great success. And both of them, you always wonder, what if you just practiced a little bit more? Sam is pretty famous for last year coming out, winning a golden ticket really early on, and then basically not playing for the entire year. And then he goes and gets 3rd at World Finals. So you just wonder, a guy that's like got that much natural skill, what if he had the work ethic of someone like Morten or Mohamed Light? Who knows? Maybe 2023 will answer that question. Tico on the other side of it, great player. We didn't see a lot of him in 2022. He showed up in a couple monthly finals. This does feel like the most heavily weighted match in the first round of our competition this weekend in favor of Samwell.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the Tico, not the popular pick between these two. Currently in that leaderboard for our CRL hunt, but not near the top quite yet. Down in the, I believe, tied for 20th or tied for 17th at the moment. So a big performance this weekend could really vault him up into contention in a way that he never has been before. Juicy, talking about these two players, obviously Samwell's the pick here. If you're working with Tico, what are you telling him to get ready for this matchup?
You know, it's tough. I mean, Samuel, he can really play anything. Quick cycle, RG, maybe even E-Giant or a Lava or some sort of beatdown like this. It's going to be difficult. I'll let you guys pass this match and we'll see how it goes.
And
yeah,
right
Sam
out the gate. Go ahead.
One of those guys that can just really play anything. So to also answer your question, Rich, I would say get ready for what's in the meta. And it seems like we're already seeing that here from Sam.
Big push with an opening, an early drill from Tico, and has to contend now with a giant skeleton, a royal ghost, and a flying machine that does get on tower. NATO pulls it all back, but the flying machine still stays on tower. That NATO ends up going completely to waste. Tons of damage in for Samwell and a 2 elixir lead.
You can see Sam almost allowing himself to have a good time there. You can see him almost smiling with how great that first push was. I mean, yes, he took a little bit of damage himself, but still in a 500 damage lead. And I also think confidence-wise, Tico goes, okay, how did that just happen? He just dropped his first 4 cards on the board, and somehow he got 1,000 damage out of it. So I'd be a little worried if I was Tico, but Sam looking like Sam so far.
And this is a deck that Sam is only about 50-50 on win rate with overall versus one of Tico's best decks. Tico, 83% win rate in CRL competition this month playing this drill deck. So this is one of those ones that I think that Tico was really hoping to get the win out of, and right now feeling the pressure as we get into the final few seconds of single elixir.
I mean, Sam just keeps doing this. He goes, you don't really have a way to get on top of what you need. Giant Skelly Bomb makes it so nothing can get on top of that Royal Ghost, and the piggies are just straight on through to the tower. I mean, this feels like when you're playing against someone, when you end the game and you look and their highest trophies are like 3,000 lower than yours, and it feels like the whole entire game you just didn't have a response. Obviously a little bit different because it's Samwell Basoto, but right now it seems like Tico just doesn't have an answer to anything Sam sends at him.
So here we go, final minute of regulation play, and it keeps seeming like it's the same sort of story. Now this drill might go to try to pull things back, but the Magic Archer lineup will get some nice damage, and that NATO to the opposite lane. This is a good swing towards Tico's direction, but look at the amount of damage given now for the dual lane pressure for this Hog Rider deck, or Royal Hog.
Yeah, and he's got a lot coming down the lane with this counter push. The Ewiz does come down. Hoggies are still going to get some good damage, but you've still got a little arsenal here built up at the bridge with the Zappies protecting the Fish Boy. Lot spent there. Sam's up by a little. Technically no because of the Ewiz, so finally Tico's seeing a little bit defensively.
Tornado may be the most precarious spell in to throw out there. It almost feels like it's just as valuable as if you were in a wizard fight in your hometown and you tried to conjure a tornado to win it, and then you're like, oops, I just destroyed my own house, right? That seems to happen so often with this card, and we've seen a couple of wizard tornado plays that seem like Tico has the right idea. Pull stuff back to not damage your tower. Get that flying machine to the opposite lane to open up this big push, but the result has been almost more devastating than what he was facing in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, Sam doing a great job of figuring out when to apply pressure to the opposite lane. I mean, that's the other thing that we almost never talk about at this high of a level because it seems like such a duh factor. But the wherewithal, when all things are going on crazy, double, triple elixir, to somehow just put one unit in front of an opposite lane push that can turn the whole game on a dime. It's stuff that we've seen for years. We don't highlight a lot, but the best players in the world do it effortlessly.
And there you go. You see just the damage continuing to creep on in. No matter what Tico does, it's stuff getting on tower. He really has no way to control these flying machines. Nothing on the opposite side, obviously, lacking a big spell. And this is what he's hoping for, is to get lineups, get Magic Archer damage, maybe control with the Evas when it comes across. Otherwise, that flying machine is an absolute menace.
It's just the range on it is so funky, right? The moment that lineup isn't perfect from inception, essentially, it becomes impossible to get on top of. And here we go. Here's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. Flying Machine played up high too early on. Magic Archer gets on top of it. Cannon Cart's there to protect. And now we finally see Tico having maybe another opportunity. That poor Magic Archer just put in an ocean of like 30 elixir, and that Magic Archer was dropped right in the middle of it.
Yeah, that was a lie. I think he maybe have to shave his head now out of shame, that Magic Archer. Very unfortunate for him as we go here into game number 2. And, you know, part of it, this thought process too, Andrew, you know, we talk about how different this version of duels is from our previous version. Not only are you not able to adapt and build decks game by game, but these players have to make a choice for game 2 and or game 3 very, very fast. You know what decks you have remaining, and hopefully you've trained enough that you are able to quickly evaluate what's likely or available from your opponent's side. But that decision is lightning quick.
Magic Archer gets 2 shots in there, and could not agree more with you, man. I honestly, even just the nerves that you get for deck picking in between, it's like you don't even get a second to breathe throughout these entire 3-game matches. So, you know, and obviously the pressure that Tico must be feeling to try to get one back. And just to kind of go back to what I said earlier, is it just feels effortless right now from Basoto.
And that's probably a perfect description, effortless, as he has been continuously performing really, really well here. And, you know, we're seeing, and this maybe it's because of a change in the Golden Knight. Golden Knight's dash a little bit less oppressive than it's been in the past. Skeleton's making a pretty big comeback this month.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that you make. We didn't see him a lot last month. They were replaced with goblins or just a spirit most of the time. You know, goblins, archers were literally everywhere, so it kind of took the place of those skellies, but a little bit of a change here in this month's finals.
And sizzle will happen right here at the bridge. Giant Skeleton out of concern. Here we go. Loon behind the Phoenix. Ram Rider out to control with Fireball.
And I really like this defense here from Sam, because even if that egg pops, it would have chased the Ram Rider, so only ends up taking death damage and technically up by about a half elixir here. So Sam, again, seems very confident in his responses. We'll see how Tico can break through. Giant Skeleton is just everywhere again and so dominant. I don't know if the card needs a nerf. I almost don't even know if I want it to get nerfed, but just something to talk about.
Oh, look at this arrow snowball just to try to get a little bit more, and I think we might see a push on this left-hand lane, although a lot for Tico to deal with on the right-hand side. Fireball to clean, and he's going to go ahead and just let that Phoenix on the left get some work in as the Skeletons control it very nicely. Sam just not making many mistakes right now.
Yeah, and I'm also really curious, you know, if Tico, once we get deeper into a double and triple elixir, like double cycling those archers, if that's going to become a thing at all, or if he's going to just kind of continue doing what he's been doing, because you know Sam's going to innovate his pushes relatively soon.
And Monk ability, yeah.
Yeah, Ram Rider definitely going to get on tower there. I mean, she's fully stocked here on HP, even so much so she's tanking for that skeleton.
Yeah, Skeleton with a lot of damage, down to 1608. Archer's mostly taken care of, not much of a concern anymore. And the Giant Skeleton will get the Magic Archer off the board with the help of the Snowball, but talking about Snowball starting to build in favor of Samwell.
Yeah, you know, talking about those archers and wondering how Sam was going to have to deal with them, not even a conversation, more so about Tico and his inability to get on top of that Magic Archer. Just been a devastating force this entire game. You can only go for a negative trade, but then you don't have the Snowball, which you got to have for the Ram Rider, so that Magic Archer is just a nuisance.
Up by a couple elixir here is Samwell as we get closer to triple elixir time. The question is, what does Tico have to try to battle back here? Does get the Magic Archer out in triple elixir.
He had to spend for it.
Yeah, I know. That's what I keep on noticing here, Andrew.
Yeah, that's a good point, too, about sneaking in the balloon. I mean, that's the plan, right? There it is. And the balloon's coming down. Great call there, man. He knows as soon as he gets to triple, he's got to make something happen. Only problem is Sam is just completely controlling the board. Now the Miner has to come out defensively as the Ram Rider connects. I mean, you hate to say it, but it just feels like Tico's just unmatched.
I mean, this is just a brutal situation for him to be in with 35 seconds left. And now he knows anytime he balloons, just Ram Rider right there. So he has to figure out how to cheaply defend this on the left-hand side and then hope he can get a Ram Rider or hope he can get a balloon. But this cycle is so quick here in triple elixir that any balloon he plays isn't going to do much. And Magic Archer right there just puts the final touches on, hey, this is over. I am going to the next round. Good luck in the lower bracket, Tico. This is it.
Yeah, and Sam just looking exactly like you'd expect him to. I mean, just perfect form, effortless. He finally smiles now that he barely smiles now that he picks up that 2-0 win. Just great stuff there. And you know what? I'm happy to see it. I was just going to say, if I'm Sam's coach, the one thing that I want Sam has a coach. The one thing that I want is for Sam to lose. And I know it's crazy to say it. I want Sam to lose so that he keeps pushing and playing like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real question, right? Is what motivates Samwell Basoto? We knew at World Finals, Sam was enjoying his time in Helsinki. He was out exploring the city. Like, he was not treating it like he was there for a World Finals. He was treating it like he was there for vacation, and he got third in the world. Right? Yeah. So, that's one of those questions is what turns his switch on? And I think that's been one of the challenging answers for maybe him to answer himself, maybe for coaches in the past to answer. And that you see the way he can play when he is dialed in. Very curious to see if he can extend this throughout the year.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest question with Sam. And honestly, what's crazy is it almost doesn't even matter, right? Because if he just goes back and he gets third place again, I mean, he's already won almost $200,000 in his competitive career from a guy that didn't compete for 6 months out of the year last year, right? So when you talk about that, it's just incredibly impressive. The calm today, the domination, the matchups, everything was just, it was what I want to see. Just like I said, though, if I'm his coach, I want to see him lose so that he stays hungry.
Yeah, and that's actually a big question here, right? With every other player, you're like, go ahead and get the golden ticket. Sam, obviously moving up in the rankings. Does he keep on doing that month by month? And looking at these decks here, I just want to point this out on Tico's side in game number 1. Drill NATO, no Golden Knight. There's no champion here whatsoever, and no Golden Knight in this deck. Very strange choice, because obviously this deck does get drill damage, but that NATO Golden Knight, even with the nerf, that's a huge way that this deck wins games.
Yeah, when the mini P.E.K.K.A came out, I was just kind of shocked, and obviously the mini P.E.K.K.A did very, very little in that matchup. I don't think it's a good call. I mean, if you're going to run that deck, you cannot expect to only win off of Goblin Drills and Magic Archer lineups, because once you get into double elixir, that Goblin Drill is going to become a lot more ineffective, and those Magic Archer lineups, they just seem very, very difficult at the highest level. And then you go into the next game here, and it was, again, just Sam, just controlling it all the way through. Tico did not know when to play those balloons. You called it perfectly. Maybe when we get into triple, that's when we'll see Tico start to sneak in those balloons, but the problem is Sam has so many ways to get on top. The Magic Archer's always played in the middle. You got to snowball him, you got to arrows him, you got to send in a miner. There's so much he had to do. Sam made him work to lose, and that's maybe my new favorite thing to say.
Sam made him work to lose. What a fascinating way to put that one. And I just want to point this out again here, Andrew, in Tico's deck number 2. No champions again. So I don't know what's going on with Tico's choices here. Very, very interesting calls, right? And obviously these are 2 decks that both can work. The first one probably needs that Golden Knight to be truly effective, but very, let's call it unconventional choices here in the first outing for Tico. Let's take a look at the bracket here. Juicy. We're getting into the upper bracket semis and then these elimination rounds in the lower bracket. I'm going to give you a 2-part question. I think I know your answer to the top one. Upper bracket semis, who's going to the finals? Lower bracket, who is the most likely person to continue all the way through?
Absolutely. Obvious pick, Muhammad Light. Next, I would definitely pick Sam. He played amazing in that match. In the lower bracket, a little bit closer, I would go for Moogie over Sam, just because world champ. And then Pedro versus Tico. I would pick Pedro. Based off what we just saw, I feel like Tico really struggled there, especially with the deck picks, like you said. So I'd probably go Pedro here for the last lower bracket match.
So very interesting selection for all of these ones. Now, Andrew, we're looking at these matches. Muhammad Light versus Clown, Pandora versus Samwell, Moogie versus Sam, and Pedro versus Tico. And I think that our 2 most imbalanced in terms of our imbalanced matches might be Mo versus Clown and Pedro versus Tico.
Yep.
Is Clown the biggest underdog on the board right now with these upcoming matches?
mean, yes, because he's going up against Mohamed Light first, so that already puts him at such a massive disparity. But I will say, after watching that matchup between Tico and Sam, it feels like maybe Tico is the one who feels the most kind of fish out of water. It's tough, though, because I think Tico's a good player. And again, Tico, I'm sure you might watch this back and you might hate me. And this is, again, nothing about you. It's more about Sam. It's more about Sam just showing up and doing what Sam does. I mean, it could have been anyone, maybe other than Mohamed Light, and it wouldn't have surprised me. Like, literally anyone in the world other than Mo, and I would have been like, well, that's just Sam doing what Sam does. And talking about another Sam, he needs to figure out his elixir management. That's the one thing I really, really noticed in that first set. I don't know about you guys, but that's the main thing that stands out to me.
Yeah, that's the big question here for OP Sam in this one. You know, from that first matchup, if there's one little opening in the armor, Juicy J, of Moogie, and I'll let you guys take this away as you go into the game. Deck selection, is that maybe a problem for Moogie? And I'll let you guys go ahead and take this from here.
Yeah, I definitely think that Moogie, I mean, that is his biggest weakness. We do see a Fisherman drop for the Miner here and the Goblins of the Bridge, so looks like Moogie is going for an RG deck here. Based off that, I mean, I don't know, man. I think Sam, once again, might be having a nice matchup here versus Moogie with a bit of a Miner control. Probably a Mortar Miner spam, actually, going versus RG. It's going to be really hard for Moogie to work through those splash units. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, Moogie is one of my favorite people in the world to watch play Royal Giant. His ability to kind of look into the future of his opponent's sequencing defensively, clean it all up, and then you have an RG with 75% HP and nothing on the board to defend. That's something that I've seen Moogie do over the years, time and time again. And I like that he's going back to it. I do like that he's going RG right now. RG is comfort for him. It's also very strong in the meta right now. And going up against someone like Sam, who had issues with elixir management, that's, again, another place where RG can really, really shine.
That's definitely a very solid point. We'll see if he can break through in this match. Once again, like with an RG deck like this, everything's so single targeting. Look at the Fisherman, Phoenix, the Monk, and the Hunter. I mean, no splash damage at all. Yeah, at least he does have the Fireball. A lot of the time, we do see Lightning pair with this, so Fireball is definitely going to give him some chances to break through spam of the Flying Machine. But the Skeleton Army is definitely going to be probably like the most difficult thing, the Skelly Army paired with that Skelly King ability.
Yeah, you saw there Sam when the Fireball came down on top of the Flying Machine, he kind of gave like a head nod like, oh, okay, all right, we're running that version. Well, that's not great for me, but Sam gonna have to figure out a way to play through that as Moogie piles everything up at the bridge here. Can't imagine an RG comes down, but maybe just trying to feel out his opponent, see what he wants to do.
I like the just swarm here. This Monk ability is going to kill the archers as well. The egg is protected. Egg with the respawn.
Wow.
Flying Machine going to get taken out by the Fireball. And a Cannon Card is going to be forced out, but that baby Phoenix lock on the tower for some massive damage.
Yeah, and then another Phoenix comes down. Love this play here by Moogie. Going to stop the cannon in its tracks. Opposite lane, can log, does decide to log, does get the Skeleton King down just in time, does Sam, so that's nice for him as he's going to maybe try to make something happen here. Maybe opposite lane? He gets something down? No, he's just going to pile it on.
Skelly King ability is going to help out the best they can. Archer's getting taken out by the Monk ability, and the Goblins pick up the Miner every time. Here comes the Bridge and the Fisherman to pull that Cannon Cart. Mortar's trying to defend here. Not a second Monk ability going to drop, but a Fireball is going to hit this Mortar in the face. Pre-log as well from Moogie.
Yep. Wow. And that's exactly what I was talking about, right? That pre-log coming down. It's just enough for Moogie. Now Sam going, I have to play my Skeleton King out of sequence. No souls to stack, which you and I both know that's one of the worst feelings when you have to play a Skeleton King defensively with no swarm units on the board.
Yeah, and you called it, man. I mean, Moogie just playing perfectly right now. Another Monk at the bridge here going to tank for this Cannon Cart. And Fisherman going to pull in, Hunter going to take out. Monk ability now hitting that Flying Machine. Fireball here, log on the Skarmy. I mean, this is just perfect gameplay for Moogie. And I still stand by what I said. Like, I think that Sam can definitely win this matchup if he plays perfectly. But Moogie just, you know, he's just outclassing right now.
Well, yeah, and now we're finally seeing a little bit of that opposite lane pressure, which I know is kind of difficult when you're in an RG matchup, but at least in my experience playing this Swarm deck, you can't just keep playing into that pile up at the bridge. It just does not work for Sam, so at least changing it up to go both lanes, I like it. I just think it's too little too late.
That's exactly my point here. I mean, now there's only 60 seconds left. Moogie's already up an immense amount of damage. Here comes the cannon cart, the skeleton ability trying to make something happen. Log gonna roll on through, and Hunter really helping clean up the swarm of the skeletons despite not having the splash. And here comes Moogie with another fireball, just kind of cycling those fireballs out. And there's only 35 seconds left.
And you see Sam didn't get a whole lot out of it, but but he did get something out of it because Moogie was able to just completely ignore that flying machine opposite lane. You wonder if maybe that had happened more throughout this game, if we'd be seeing a Moogie having to worry just a little bit more about the opposite. But instead, pouring it on same lane over and over and over, fine. An Aaron flying machine goes off in the opposite lane. Cool, take the damage that you want. I'm gonna still focus on the tower I'm gonna take. So great plays there by Moogie. And for Sam, yeah, I don't know. It just feels like he could have played that a little bit differently, maybe just a little bit more pressure opposite lane.
I definitely agree. I think another thing that we didn't really see much is at the deck screen there for a second, we saw that he didn't use his last card, those last card arrows. We never saw some pre-arrows drop on the goblins to try and get the minor connections in order to make that nice minor Skelly King ability push with the minor tank for the Skellies. And I think that's another thing that Sam really needed to make happen. Maybe have a pre-arrows come on through.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, especially with all the pileups at the bridge. I'm kind of surprised that we didn't really see the arrows come out at all. I mean, it's pretty rare that you see 8 cards in a deck and one of them not played at all, and it's very successful. There are times when you see that where someone goes, all right, my win condition just isn't going to do it. Let's work on spell cycling. Let's work on chip damage. And those are always, you know, pretty impressive games. But I think on the other side of it, when you don't win them and you didn't play that card and there were opportunities for it, it kind of leaves a question mark in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of question marks, wonder what these players are playing right now as we're waiting till double elixir to get this match going. A lot of the time with matchups like this where you're waiting till double elixir, you're going to be seeing heavier decks. Maybe we'll see some lava, maybe some E-Giant. Also, graveyard could be an option here. Or maybe one of these players just does have a quick cycle deck and they're just wanting to play reactively. Here comes a magic card to the back from Moogie. Giant Skelly on the board from Sam. We'll see what other cards are going to come on through here.
Well, Moogie, his most popular deck that he had 100% win rate with was the Giant Skeleton Drill Magic Archer deck, so I'm wondering if that's what we're going to see right here. No, it's going to be a switch up. He did run a version like this as well, I believe. He just took out Giant Skeleton and put in Dark Prince.
Yeah, very similar decks. Most likely a mirror matchup here. Not complete mirror, obviously. Moogie might not having that Giant Skeleton, but the Gold Knight going to drop down from both players. Magic Archer from both players. Here comes the Gold Knight Ewis at the top. Mini P.E.K.K.A. going to get kind of taken out by this cannon cart. And that's why the cannon cart is just so OP. I mean, we're starting to see how cannon cart is really strong based off of the Mega Drive game mode. It's definitely one of the best picks in the Mega Drive game mode. But I think in regular game mode or in duels format, cannon cart is a very underrated card to have. It's just always staying up on the map, getting so much value and taking everything out.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Cannon Cart. It is a fascinating card. Like, I think what you're saying about the Mega Draft is a really good point. It almost reminded people how good of a card it is, because it's a card that just shows up and stays really popular, and then for some reason it just isn't anymore. And it's kind of inexplicable as to why. Not always a meta conversation. Sometimes just like, all right, we're done playing Cannon Cart right now. Kind of similarly to how Giant Skeleton worked over the last few months. It feels like Giant Skeleton kind of disappeared and came back without too many changes around it.
Really nice pre-barbell from Sam, damaging everything and killing that Magic Archer, preventing him from getting a nice connection. Gold Knight Dash here, taking out the cannon cart once again, and Zabby split in the back. Overall, Moogie up about 500 damage here, just because of the earlier Magic Archer connection. Sam really needs to lean on the Giant Skeleton and build up a big enough push in order to break through here, in order to come back.
How do you feel about kind of the swerves here in Sam's deck, kind of pulling a classic OP Sam and putting in Zappies and Mini P.E.K.K.A.?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely an unconventional version of this deck, but, you know, it's definitely a lot stronger versus stuff like E-Giant, like Zappies and Mini P.E.K.K.A. Maybe he was trying to snipe like an E-Giant deck from Moogie here in this game too. But overall, in this matchup specifically, I don't think it's really helping him out, because the Zappies is allowing Moogie to get even more Gold Knight NATO dash value potentially.
And that's a good call there on Moogie playing E-Giant. He did play it a handful of times with a 100% win rate, 100% clip there, if you will. And another great connection there by Moogie.
Yeah, Golden Knight, NATO, Magic Archer lineup as well. The synergy is crazy.
Magic Archer protected.
On the right for Sam, doing quite well also. But here comes another drill Magic Archer. Sam shakes his head. He knows he's in trouble. And Magic Archer taking that tower down to 482. And only 30 seconds left in the game.
It just feels like Moogie is getting an insane amount of value every single time, and Sam is not. Although Sam here doing okay on the right-hand lane. Moogie, though, gets on top of it perfectly. Late Bar Barrel get on top of the Magic Archer, distracts that Golden Knight. And now we can look for another Magic Archer lineup here.
And there you go. Magic Archer connects Goblins as well. GG's. Moogie going to take a nice 2-0 sweep. I think another thing that we really didn't touch on there was the Dark Prince. The Dark Prince, one of the, if not the best counter to the Goblin Drill, really helping out in that mirror matchup.
Yeah, Moogie just having all the answers there for Sam. And, you know, again, one of those conversations that is years old is, you know, OP Sam, one of the most exciting players to watch, one of the most innovative deck builders. We call him a mad scientist for a reason, but then also when you look at that mad science coming in to your decksmanship, wow, this really does feel like 2018. It doesn't always work out. You know, the Zappies didn't really have much of an opportunity. The mini P.E.K.K.A just wasn't as impactful maybe as Sam hoped it would be. And I think what you said is a really good point, Juicy. I think probably looking for E-Giant as one of Moogie's favorite win conditions, but just not getting it in the cards, not getting it in the draw, and then just not having a lot of answers for what Moogie did bring out to play here. And this is the moment that we were talking about before. Just beautiful sequencing here from Moogie throughout. That's the tower take, but I believe it was 2 RG sends beforehand. The other thing here, Juice, it felt like Sam was playing on his back foot for both of these games for the entirety of this 6 minutes. 5 minutes.
Momentum, a huge thing in Clash Royale. You know, he tried to take back some of the momentum in the second match by switching lanes. I think that was one of the best things that he did in that match, to switch lanes to try and make something happen. But like you said, the mini P.E.K.K.A just not the thing that you want in that matchup. In that mirror matchup, you want the splash image of the Dark Prince for the drill, and mini P.E.K.K.A, the Zappies, just not putting the work. And Moogie playing like he does, taking an easy dub, an easy 2-0 sweep there, and continuing on here in the losers bracket.
You know, exciting stuff, though, for Sam here as we look at game number 1. One of the conversations in game number 1 that we kind of talked about just a moment ago for game number 2 was you wonder about that dual lane pressure, right? Sam had success with it in game number 2 a little bit late. Game number 1, he started to get a little bit of success with it, but it was kind of too late to tell. At that point, Moogie wasn't really concerned about having to defend because that right-hand tower was basically untouched. And then game number 2, we talked about it. You know, we saw Tico run this deck without, or a version of this deck without Golden Knight. I think that's a mistake. Then you see Sam run it with Golden Knight, but with mini P.E.K.K.A and Zappies. Had it been E-Giant, Juicy, I think we'd be probably singing 100%. Sam's praises. Yeah,
Sam, if he got the E-Giant matchup there, definitely would have taken a W. Going back to that game version, or with Tico, really crazy to see that no Golden Knight there. I think if he had the Golden Knight, like, that would have been a huge, like, much different story, because the Golden Knight just gets so much value versus the Zappies and the Mother Witch in that previous game.
It just doesn't feel like there's synergy without the Golden Knight. And Rich, you actually pointed that out yourself. Rich, I know you're a big fan of Sam. I know that we've all been friends for years. It just felt like, let's put it this way. It feels like Sam is ramping up for a great year.
Sure. I mean, look, this is very early in the season. Getting these early points is super valuable. And keep in mind that every time you don't get a golden ticket, but you still get points, that leaderboard actually thins at the top, right? So we're talking about our top 14 on the leaderboard. Well, 7 of those top 14 are going to get there by points, and as long as people above you get golden tickets, that bumps you up. So for Sam, I think right now the big key is don't take this weekend too hard. Think about what the mistakes were that you made, maybe some about some of the deck selection you might go into for our next time around, and then come back and try to repeat this same performance and maybe capitalize a little bit more next time. Because again, this is month 2 of 7 months of chances to accumulate points. So while you're the first man out today, doesn't mean you're out for this entire year. And man, now you talk about going from one bit of stress to the other. Is the pressure right now more on Pedro in our upcoming match or more on Tico? I have my feelings, but Juicy, we'll start with you. Pedro's looking at the rest of this board here, and it feels like there might be a little bit more stress on him than on Tico because of expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I sure hope he wins based off of our predictions that we filled in the first round, Rich. But yeah, I definitely think he's got more pressure on his back to take the dub. And I think that does kind of relieve Tico in a way. I mean, after that first match, he's definitely in a tough spot. But if he can take a dub and kind of prove everyone wrong, then he's going to be in a great spot in the rest of the losers bracket.
Andrew, what's it like right now, you think, for our potential Rookie of the Year? Obviously, having a phenomenal year so far on Pedro's side of it. But do you think he's starting to feel it now with his back against the wall?
You know, again, Tico's just going to hate me. I feel like this is one of those situations where Tico needs to be looked at from Pedro's eyes as a stepping stone. If Pedro does want to be Rookie of the Year, if he does want to be the guy that we're hoping he can be by the end of 2023, he has to pick up this win. Just because of what we saw out of Tico in that set, even though it was against Samwell, the deck selection, all of it just didn't really add up. And then for Tico's side of it, I think this is a great moment to course correct and prove me wrong specifically, since, again, I'm sorry, I feel like I've been harping on him, but I think this is a must win for Pedro, and I think this is a fun win for Tico.
Well, let's go ahead and jump on into our next lower bracket matchup, elimination between Tico and Pedro, and interesting choices here. Minor Bandit to open up Juicy on Pedro's side.
Minor Bandit, most likely going to be the Mega Knight Prince Minor Wall Breakers deck that we've seen so much of. The most used deck in Serial this year, actually. Tico at the bottom here with the E-Giant Goblin Cage. E-Giant, a solid win condition. Fire Spirit going to clean up the Wall Breakers as well. Interesting to see Fire Spirit used so often in the E-Giant deck today. But I just want to touch on, once again, kind of weird deck selection from Tico. Round 2, because he's got the Bomber and the Fire Spirit. Usually it's one or the other. Seems like it might be working out for him so far, though, with this E-Giant Inferno Dragon push, doing some nice damage on the left.
Yeah, good little bit of work here, but well controlled to mitigate the damage on Pedro's side. But he is certainly low on Elixir and might have to just take this Bomber shot to get himself back in the mix, and he does. 2283 to 2696. You know, talking about being less predictable here, Juicy. This Wall Breakers deck a little bit lower on the use rate overall for Pedro, but with a nice positive win rate at 60%.
60% is solid. We'll see how it works out from here. I mean, Miner's definitely a card that he's comfortable with. E-Giant in the back here, going towards the Inferno Dragon, that's always solid. And then Pedro going with the Mega Knight in the opposite lane here. I think this might actually be a small mistake. A lot of the time in this Mega Knight Prince versus E-Giant matchup, you want to go same lane and you want to just obliterate the Mega Knight with the Mega Knight, or you want to obliterate the E-Giant with the Mega Knight Prince combo.
Well, here we go. E-Wiz behind the Mega Knight, letting the Prince kind of work on its own, plus the Bandit against that Electro Giant. And now a pretty solid push into the right-hand lane, and maybe a kite coming for this Inferno Dragon. There it goes.
And Tico with a very huge mistake here, a late Gold Knight dash, allowing the Prince and the Bandit, or either, I think it was the Prince that connected there, or maybe the Bandit, but either way, that Gold Knight immediately died, and that's going to be huge connection for damage for Pedro. And once again, Prince back in cycle for this E-Giant, Mega gonna drop, and that's what you want to do on the defense. Here's a counter push, not to mention Pedro having the Electro in this variation for Tico's Inferno Dragon.
And here we go, Miner going to the outside in the, and you'll notice some of you have not been watching as much competitive lately might be going, hey, what's with that one tile outside placement by the by that Miner? And that's to avoid the easy King Tower activation. People are doing that a whole lot more as of late. We're seeing that here.
Not only does it defend against the King Tower activation, but also really good generally versus E-Giant decks, because it makes it so you can't place a building on top of the Miner to catch it with that placement. Here goes a misclicked King Miner from Pedro, though, allowing the King Tower activation. Pedro going with the Mega Knight on the defense here, and Inferno Dragon setting up. Minute 30 left, 5:54 on the right here. It's not impossible for Tico to come back to win this, though, just because Pedro doesn't have a big spell.
Here we go. Prince going to work on defense against this Electro Giant. Take that off the board easily, 11-20 to 443. And the E-Wiz comes out. Solid Lightning here, going to force out some more work from Pedro just to kite. And Miner goes to the safe spot for this one to get a little extra damage. And NATO has to pull off. That gives a nice elixir advantage here, Juicy, to Pedro.
Yeah, Pedro's up elixir of damage. Tico kind of rubbing his head, not really sure what to do in this situation. Here comes the Mega Knight Prince. Ewiz dropping for the Inferno Dragon once again. Goblin Cage on the defense. Here comes the Bandit trying to snipe the Goblin Cage. E-Giant dropping the defense here, but Wall Breaker's coming on through. Great arrows to try and hit anything like a Bomber or a Fire Spirit. Tico, a very solid defense once again, but the arrow cycle is kind of just finishing this game slowly but surely.
And we might see minor variation. Yes, there it goes to the inside front corner, avoiding the catch, not worried about the NATO at this point, and now all it will take is a stiff breeze to knock down that tower on the bottom right.
Here comes the final mire. Nope, just on that. Lightning from Tico on his own tower. Giving up here in Pedro. Pretty excited after a nice win. Interesting game there. I mean, once again, deck pick from Tico, very strange. Cage, definitely not the best building. Fire Spirit and Bomber, you know, not the best combination there either. Very interesting deck pick, and then, you know, Pedro just kind of outplaying, playing same lane with the Mega Knight Prince. That's what you want to do. He's going to take a very easy and nice dub.
And you gotta imagine that Tico not super stoked to see the Mother Witch right into his spears to open things up.
Mother Witch, one of the best counters is the Spear Goblins and Bats and Swarm cards like that. Here comes a Miner on the left and some Wall Breakers as well. The Wall Breaker is going to get killed by the Tombstone here, but one does connect, so that'll be a nice damage lead to start it off for Tico here.
And just slowing it down a little bit as we get past the first minute in area.
I think we're going to deal with the Fisher Boy here. So in Skelly King RG, Mother Witch versus a minor kind of swarm deck, you could say. Here comes a Valkyrie at the bridge. Valkyrie, one of the best counters to the Skelly King, kind of preventing that ability. Cannon Card helping DPS everything down.
And we're starting to see the Valkyrie pick up a bit here, Juicy. You know, she kind of disappeared for a minute, and we're starting to see a little bit more Valkyrie mixed into these duel sets.
Yeah, I mean, Valkyrie's a solid tank. I definitely can see why we don't see it as often anymore. Obviously, took that nerf a while back. Definitely went down from the best tank to maybe second or third or even fourth or fifth best with all the different tanks added with the champions, and also the Knight buff that the Knight received not too long ago.
Cannon Cart going to work here on these piggies. 15 seconds left in regulation time, and Pedro with the lead on the right-hand side. It gets the lead on the left-hand lane as well and sets up the Tombstone into the poison here.
Pretty solid Tombstone. It's a great Tombstone for minor decks. But, you know, Tico does have that poison ready for it. -1 trade, but the damage is very good. Here comes some Wall Breakers to the bridge, tanked forward by the Cannon Cart. Fireball forced out here. No Barbell and Cycle maybe. It's a really nice positive elixir trade there. Fisherman getting cleaned up by the Spear Goblins and a Cannon Cart in back. You know, Pedro seems like he's kind of struggling right now to try and find a way to break through. And Tico doing a great job just minor poison cycle with some strong defense and making really nice use of his Cannon Cart in the Valkyrie to kind of deal with the Mother Witch and the Skelly King and stuff like that quite nicely.
Significant push kind of shut down very easily, and now dual lane pressure in for Pedro. 15 seconds left, and the Royal Giant does come out on the right-hand side. Bomb tower to pick up, but this Mother Witch going to continue to be a problem. And, you know, you're looking at the side of Tico here, Juicy J, and obviously minor poison control, classic archetype. The Wall Breakers definitely helping with the damage. And look at that, nice work on the left-hand lane, 1560 remaining. But you look at this, and how much is the Mother Witch going to be a problem going into these this last 2 minutes?
You know, I really thought the Mother Witch would be a problem, but the Valkyrie's doing a great job of stopping it, so is the Cannon Cart. And the Spear Goblins buff recently is actually making a huge difference here as well, with that range buff, making so the Mother Witch can't always really lock onto it, since they're a little bit lower down than usual. Here comes a minor Wall Breakers, Cannon Cart push on the left-hand side. Minor chipping away, as always. Skelly King gonna drop on the defense. 20 seconds till triple elixir. Pedro's down about 600 damage right now. He does have a nice counter push, see if he does anything with it. Here comes a dual lane pressure.
And here we go. Royal Giant on the right-hand side, picked up by the high bomb tower. Valkyrie working on the left with spears behind. Fireball has to come out. Wall Breakers need to be dealt with Tombstone will pick up, but the Elixir continues to lean towards Tico. Triple Elixir flowing, final minute. Juicy does to break through here. Is this where Pedro now goes RG right, RG left, RG right?
Absolutely, yeah. You have to get a dual lane pressure. Skeleton's back for the 3-card cycle. RG in the back. He needs to cycle 2 or 3 more cards in order to get back to that RG. Mother Witch to the bridge here, turning these piggies, or turning the Spirit Ops into piggies. Boy's going to try and kill that. Here comes the second Fish Boy for the Valkyrie on the left. And we're going to see a RG come in on the left lane as well, most likely. Fireball going to drop kill his buried tower or bomb tower first. Mother Witch plus Barbro trying to spawn some more piggies. Bomb tower's down in cycle once again, though, and Tico's defense is just too solid. Here comes the second RG, though, and the bomb tower is dead.
Cannon cart connects on the left-hand side. That's a huge problem. Tico, upset in mind. Looking like he's going to even things up here with a very nice performance, and we saw the lightning waved as the white flag in game number 1. Game number 2, Pedro throws that fireball to the corner. Here we go, game number 3, RG and minor wall breakers played for Tico so far. Electro Giant minor wall breakers played. Oh, sorry, for Tico. And for Pedro, it was that RG plus minor wall breakers.
Absolutely, might be seeing an RG from Tico here, seeing the Fisherman. Pedro probably going back to some comfort, like maybe some Hog Rider. No, a Gold Knight gonna drop, so maybe E-Giant from Pedro here. I mean, overall, E-Giant has a pretty dang good matchup versus RG. But actually not going to be RG. It's going to be Roll Hogs. Nice Roll Hogs from Tico. Really nice to see Tico take the first dub here today. Well played on him. I think we finally saw him have a very nice deck pick.
And the Bomber just trying to hold off against this Flying Machine. This is going to be a really rough start for Pedro as he goes down on damage and now behind by almost 4 Elixir. Trying to find some way to defend against what felt like a very awkward cycle situation to open up this game.
Yeah, very awkward not having that Phoenix in cycle for the Flying Machine. I think that he thought that he was going against RG like I did. That's why he cycled that Phoenix earlier to help on the defense versus the Fisherman. But throughout this match, we'll see him most likely save that Phoenix for the Flying Machine. Here comes the E-Giant Gold Knight push on the right-hand side. Fish Boy on the defense. Will the tornado happen? Yes. Very nice tornado pulling in that Fish Boy, and the Gold Knight dash hitting these Zappies as well. This is going to be a huge connection for Pedro, but Tico has a massive counter push. Giant Skelly, Ghost, and a Zappy. Let's see what Pedro's got on the defense. He gets the cannon down, and that's why we see cannon so often in E-Giant's decks like this. A lot of the time, you can be over-aggressive, plop a 3 Elixir cannon on the defense, and it does quite a good job.
Fire Spirit plus Golden Knight now to try to work against these piggies. Even with the King Tower activation, though, lots of damage on the right-hand side, down to under 1,800 HP as we go into double Elixir. So far, Juicy, Pedro has not had the defensive answers to shut down these pigs' pushes. What does he need to do to course correct here now that Elixir is beginning to come in a little bit heavier?
You know, like we've talked about, I think he was in some awkward cycles. As you head into double Elixir, he's going to be looking a lot better here with the cannon, all that, being in cycle constantly. As long as he has the cannon on defense versus the pigs going forward, he should be good. Here comes a nice E-Giant push. He does not tornado right away. He does tornado now, though, and the Gold Knight is going to find a way to dash to the tower. Giant Skelly blocking absolutely everything, and just like that, Pedro with the damage lead. And as long as he can continue playing like this in the double Elixir, I don't think he'll have any problems taking a win here.
30 HP up. Fire Spirit kites just a little bit, and that was a brilliant Fire Spirit, Juicy, to keep the Giant Skeleton from popping on the Phoenix. Very, very smart gameplay.
Just a small interaction like that can keep that Phoenix alive full health and make this E-Giant push even stronger. E-Giant make it to the tower here for some nice damage. Tico with some panic arrows just to try and take the E-Giant out. And now we got Pedro up about 300 damage. Ghost in the left-hand lane. Cannon plus a berry gonna try and keep this alive. But once again, nice pressure by Tico with the Roll Hogs Phoenix combo, or sorry, Roll Hogs Flying Machine combo when the Phoenix is out of cycle.
Oh, Flying Machine does finally go down, but doing a good job of forcing expenditure in the strong side from Pedro. It was a Royal Ghost that got away and did the damage down to 1324 in the left-hand lane, and that might be what keeps Tico alive as we go into our final 80 seconds.
I really love this lane switch from Pedro. E-Giant almost always wants to go same lane. So by going this lane switch, he's giving himself an opportunity to maybe get some damage. Not to mention another split lane pressure that goes to the opposite lane, getting the damage lead and bring that tower down to 852.
Royal Ghosts becoming the MVP here for Tico. If he does get this win, you're looking at the reason right there. Bird tries to get on the Flying Machine, gets turned around here. Flying Machine will stay on the board at 1 HP and just continue to be a bit of a menace, and it's not on the Electro Giant, it's on the Golden Knight instead.
Yeah, and the Fire Spirit not connecting either. Here comes the Golden Knight NATO though, but the Zappies stunning, preventing the Golden Knight's dash. And now there's a huge counterburst on the board, and Pedro did not get the damage that he needed. Pigs on the left-hand side, can't ready for the defend, but the Phoenix not able to lock on this Flying Machine. Tornado gonna pull everything together. Only 25 seconds left though. Pedro needs an E-Giant Golden Knight push now, but Tico just blocking the bridge with the Giant Skelly.
And the pressure on the left-hand lane continues. That's going to be no cannon available, but the Pigs can't come down right now as Tico has to defend. There they go. Tico opting not to defend, lightning in, arrows come down, NATO won't be enough. Will the Pigs do the damage? There we go. Oh my word. Pedro surviving by 17 HP. Tico cannot believe he didn't steal that one away.
Did he just jump up thinking that he won? Or was that, I don't even know, but either way, one piggy shot away from taking that dub. Pedro, by the skin of his teeth, taking the win here, 2-1. And, you know, that's going to secure him a spot in the next round. And Tico, unfortunately, going to be out of the loser bracket here.
Yeah, Tico shut that camera off very quickly. I think that he was super frustrated. That was right there for the taking. He played a really great second half of that game, Juicy, and it was the Royal Ghosts escaping, putting Pedro in maybe some unexpected pressure, and then on top of that, the Flying Machines in the middle of the board helping snipe that cannon, with the Phoenix is getting flipped around back and forth over and over again. This is probably Tico's best performance at a high level, and he still couldn't pull it out.
Yeah, he was very close. 100% agree. He did a great job, especially in that third match. As we see in the first match, you know, pretty tough matchup. Didn't play the best of his ability. Second match, Fisherman's were definitely the MVP on the defense. And the Flying Machine, like you said, predicting the cannons over and over again, getting so much value from that card. But it just wasn't enough. And here's we see that crazy defense at the end here. Lightning just enough. One pig shot away, but it wasn't in time. Time ran out. And that was game. Pedro took the
I want to see if we can run that last replay over one again. I don't know if the booth can get that ending replay back for us at some point, but very curious about where, you know, you saw Tico with 4 elixir remaining. Certainly some cycle questions of what was coming down offensively. He may have used the arrows defensively, but I do want to go ahead and see that again. And man, this was a big shot for Tico, a really nice one. And he put some pressure on Pedro, but, you know, Juicy, you talk about what you take away from this one. And here we go. Let's take a look at these at this final moment. The arrows were played after the piggies, and so not able to get back around to them. So you do see Tico doing everything he could. I'm wondering if he's frustrated because maybe if the arrows went on the bomber, he might have gotten one more pig shot on the left-hand side.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, it's really tough call, like, in a situation like that. Like, maybe if you wait a little bit longer to hit the bomber with the arrows as well, you can get the final pig shot. But I mean,
oh yeah, you see they actually slowed it way down. You see the first pig that's on tower that was being tanked for the king tower not hitting it, the bomber took that first pig off. So if the arrows go get the bomber, Tico's the winner here and Pedro's going home already. Instead, just that slight difference, that means instead Pedro takes the win and survives what was a tougher test than I think many people predicted.
One last thing I'll say about that final match was something we didn't talk about yet, was the defense versus the E-Giant. I think that a better placed Zappies would have won him the game. With the Zappies placement he used, all the Zappies were hitting at the same time on the E-Giant, and it was making it so that the Zappies were able to get hit and they weren't slowing down the E-Giant completely. With a properly placed Zappies, you can actually fully defend an E-Giant and basically prevent the E-Giant from getting any value at all. But A little bit unoptimal placement with a lightning helping out, taking out a couple of those zappies, and the E-Giant was able to do enough to win the game.
Looking at the game 3 decks here. And again, I just want to go back to this one more time. Tico just almost refusing to use champions in today's matches. And I think he used the Golden Knight in deck number 1 maybe. But you know, game 2, no champions. Game 3, no champions. And you know, the 3-card cycle is so valuable, and it's not like the champion, you're not sacrificing much by using them. You know, I understand, I've said it before, not using a champion in game 1 or game 2 to make some of your deck selection maybe less predictable as you go into those later games, but just continuously doing it, it's a very curious choice from Tico.
Yeah, like you said, the 3-card cycle, very strong, but at the same time, you know, those champion abilities can provide so much value. Maybe if you used Monk at some point during that match, could have got a nice connection, not to mention the constant chip damage throughout the match.
You know, Andrew, as we jump into this bracket, my question for you, there's a hot seat question for you, so get ready for it. Did Pedro win this one, or did he get away with one?
Pedro won this one. I think the thing that also you guys hadn't talked about yet was that really nice high cannon that Pedro played to distract the fish boy on that final push. I think that's the other layer that just added all the, you know, the misplaced zappies, the early arrows from Tico, but I also think that really nice high cannon to distract the fish boy to make it so that pull didn't happen, just kind of made that a cascading effect for Tico. I mean, gosh, what a heartbreaker. I'd be just as livid as Tico was after losing that by 31 HP, but a great performance for him. And I do have to say, I know that I've said a few things about Tico today that maybe he wouldn't like, but what I will say is that he's still here. He still made it to the top 8 in month 2, and there's a lot of players out there, a lot of players that were even at World Finals this last year that haven't made it to our monthly finals. So while it did feel like he was an underdog, he's still the top 8 in the world this month. So big shout out to him, even though he is eliminated. But I will say, at least from where I was sitting, it felt like Pedro won game 3.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make there about the cannon. And then, of course, other big thing you saw in that bracket, Moogie and Pedro both back in the mix tomorrow. So you have our former world champion in Moogie. You have this potential Rookie of the Year candidate in Pedro. Love seeing both of them go deeper into this competition. And now as we go back into our upper bracket matches, this is where things start to get really interesting because, you know, you have a Mohamed Light with a life to give, a not yet lost. Yep. Now, some people say Mo gets supercharged by being in the lower bracket, but I mean, if that's supercharged, what's it like him being only 3 wins away from winning this monthly competition? And the hill that has to be climbed by Titan Stars Alliance's Clown in this matchup.
I mean, again, like you could look at the numbers anywhere across the board, whether it's number 1 ladder finishes, whether it's CRL appearances, whether it's CRL finishes, or whether it's the fact that, you know, if you look at Kick Ash's profile, there doesn't seem to be a dollar amount that he's won in CRL, which is fine. There's not one on mine either. Where if you go to Mohamed Lights, it's over $500,000 that he's won just from CRL competition. So whether it's ladder finishes, whether it's CRL finishes, whether it's subs on YouTube, whether it's money he's made, it just feels like an impossible matchup here for Clown. Mo makes the best players in the world nervous when they play against him. So how's Clown gonna feel? The other side of it, everyone expects him to lose. And we've talked about this year after year after year. When your back's up against the wall, you got nothing to lose, that's when magic can happen.
So here we go. Upper bracket semifinals. Ice Spirits to start from both guys. And you can see some people emoting there in the field. Of course, you can watch alongside us here, but keep in mind, all of the matches for Clash Royale League available inside the Tournament Hub in your app. So you don't have to have friend links to watch these guys play. You can watch them however you want to watch CRL this year.
But then, Rich, how would they hear my missed calls on deck picks?
Well, they can put the YouTube on in the background and then still watch on their phone so the game plays full screen.
Or they can just imagine that I'm doing it, and they're still right. So I like what we're seeing from Mo here in game number 1. It's Hog, it's Control, it's Giant Skeleton with an AQ. I mean, it's just go to your bread and butter, play what you're good with. Don't do anything fancy here, and that's what we're seeing out of the GOAT.
Well, and you see a really nice sequence theoretically, from Clown here, and it ends up working out in the end. That whole defensive sequence, if you want to talk about what's making Clown sing so far in this competition, the way he used the Ice Spirit to control the Archer Queen, leaped across the river, and then bought the time to protect the Musketeer a little bit longer. Just the piece after piece after piece. You just saw Clown play a really perfect set of defense here against the best player in the world.
Yeah, and I think that that's going to have to continue to happen, as well as really abusing these Musketeers. I mean, I've seen it in qualifiers, I've seen it on your channel, I've been watching it on videos online, but the Musketeer has screamed back into the meta because small spells have been everywhere, or lightnings, right? Poisons and fireballs just aren't quite as popular right now, so Musketeers have been getting an insane amount of value, and if you can stack 2 of them on your side of the board, they do so well defensively. The one thing that I guess you don't have the luxury of in that situation is because of the giant skeleton, you're not going to get a lot of 2 Musketeers crossing the bridge. But as far as a defensive conversation, should be a positive for Kickash.
Goblins on the right-hand side, taken care of by the Archer Queen. Fireball, just to get some damage in, spread things out. The EQ does get on the bomb tower. Is this Hog going to sneak by the bomb tower bomb? Ice Spirit to try to clean things up, but 23:52 remaining. Kickash, Clown staying in the mix here, but Mo starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, great dual lane pressure here. You see the bomb tower coming out a little bit late, but the Earthquake's already there. Just enough elixir going on the right-hand side, and a great predictive log on top of those goblins, but still, Kickash playing good defense. I mean, that's the one nice thing about decks like this, Rich, is it's really easy to track their cycle, and it's really easy to track their elixir.
And you see what just happened there where, you know, there was a slight elixir lead in the hole for Mohamed Light, but the Musketeer on the board was more value than the elixir differential. But Mo just perfect control there with the Ice Spirit, gets the positive trade, and gets himself back in the driver's seat right as we go into sudden death.
And I really, really like how Kickash played that defense. He still is in the damage deficit by quite a bit. His defenses are nice, but he's having to spend an arm and a leg every time, and Mo is making him work differently every single time. One time it's the giant skeleton taking for the Musketeer, and then the Hog goes in. Another time it's you see the guards plus the Hog push. It's just that every single time he's innovating. This last time it was AQ in front of the giant skeleton, then use the AQ abilities. So he's just making it really, really tough to put a finger on his offensive pushes.
And that might have been a little bit extra there out of Clown, as the Hog Rider plus EQ will do its damage on the left-hand side. Hog just really forcing out expenditure. And now we go. Look at this cycle here as we get into triple elixir. Ice Spirit plus Mighty Miner trying to stop, but still gives up one shot.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is there's literally no offense being generated here by Kickash, whereas Mohamed Light, every single time, he's not only making his opponent overspend, but he's getting a Hog hit, he's getting a Q shot, he's getting what have you.
Hog into the left-hand lane. Drill plus log plus fireball. Desperation play, but the log cleans all of that up. There's nothing coming from that, and man, look at this. Shots after shots after shots. Pre-log comes in. Hog will still hit, get 2 shots, and you see there, Clown going, man, what do I have to do to get a little bit of offense here?
He's going, man, there's no Archer Queen on the board. How are there 3 Hogs on the board? There's no AQ. What does he have, like a 2-card cycle? I mean, the Hog Rider offense is so relentless because it is that beautiful EQ plus however cheap defense he's playing on the other side that makes it seem like a second Hog Rider comes down before a giant skeleton, before another AQ. It seems like he's got a 2-card cycle because he's cycling those incredibly cheap cards for defense every time, and then he's setting the line high with that giant skeleton. So just, I mean, if you want to know how to play Hog EQ, if you want to know how to play anything, watch Mohamed Light, but specifically Hog EQ.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to learn how to play Monopoly, go ahead and watch Mohamed Light. I just have a feeling he's good at it.
If he's good at Monopoly, I am also upset, and I'm sure he is.
Giant skeleton pulled up by the Fisherman. I don't anticipate any Fisherman giant skeleton bomb errors out of Mohamed Light in this one.
None of those shenanigans. Was it Javi? I think it's Javi, right? Javi Catorce,
yeah.
Who's his great kryptonite is those giant skeletons getting 1 tile further than he thought. Big shout out to the OG, Javi.
And Pig split 2 and 2 here. Hunter plus Electro Spirit will do a nice job on the right-hand side. Fishboy has to walk here a little bit, so he ended up some nice early chip damage. Clown now in the lead against Mohamed Light with 1:20 played.
So Mo going RG again. I mean, it's shocking that I think I actually enjoy watching Moogie play RG more than Mohamed Light. But again, Mo is another person that when you talk about defensive sequences, you always go to option. Wow, I was just putting an accent there. You always got to go to options 2, 3, and 4, never option 1.
And RG gets pulled away from the Zappies, which go on the bird, means lots of RG damage. 1924 on that bottom right-hand tower, and the lead that was there quickly diminishing.
That giant skeleton will get to tower.
Wow.
I mean, it's a very, very nice push there by Clown.
And look at that. Just as the lead completely flies over to Mohamed Light, Clown gets it back. And yeah, you put it right there. As that fisherman walked away and was just fully focused on those pigs, no answer really for that giant skeleton, and Mohamed Light finds himself in a hole.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're jinxing him with the caster curse here, all of a sudden talking about the giant skeleton not being a factor. Does get on tower while the piggies go opposite lane. I've been loving how much I've been seeing piggies over the last couple weeks. Don't love that fireball value there from Clown.
Quite a bit indeed, and now Royal Ghost going to be picked up here by the Fisherman plus Phoenix, but they're pushing right into another giant skeleton.
Yeah, and I love the pigs right behind because there's just the giant skeleton still has so much HP. Everything that's up high is going to get that death bomb. And he goes opposite. He does have the mirror. A little bit of a Mo special. This deck gave me nightmares, or a version of this deck that was very popular for a while. And because of that Sen, though, I think Mo might be able to just steal this game.
Yeah, you have the monk tanking,
100%.
Royal Giant just shredding, and
bro,
that was it. Pickaxe
why
everything right, and then spent 6 elixir on pigs with fireball and cycle.
Yes, thank you. That's all that needed to be said. We can move on to the next match. I mean, doing everything correct against the best in the world. You take that. Oh man, I feel you, bro. I feel you. It's got to feel tough when first game you had 0 responses for the entirety of the match, and then you go to game number 2, and it's very similar to that trailer for Batman versus Superman where he's like, "You could bleed, you will." It's like, holy crap, I just made Mohamed Light take damage. I just got a lot of damage on Mohamed Light, and it wasn't that hard. I can actually control a game, and then just as quickly as he was in the driver's seat, he went completely bonkers there, doing something that you and I have talked about since season 1, which is you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't need to dash for it. You're in control. Just stay in control.
Yeah, that was interesting. You know, I'm wondering if part of that choice was recognizing the push that was on its way, right? The monk was in a good spot, the Royal Giant being able to come behind it. So I wonder if part of that was maybe an effort to offset what the problem he saw coming down the lane. But you throw 6 elixir, fireballs in cycle, Mo's gonna take almost no damage from those mirrored pigs in that situation, and you're not really setting yourself up for success very well there.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is actually incredibly correct, which is if you see a push coming down a lane that you know that they have X amount of elixir that can be spent either offensively or defensively, let's try to make them spend that defensively so that they can't put the push together that they want. But then the other thing that you said that is incredibly correct is if they have the best counter in the game to your win condition, then they can just play the fireball on top of your mirrored pigs and then just eat the damage because you don't have enough of a lead. So that was just one of those things where you need to, you're looking at the micro, not the macro. And Mohamed Light, one of the greatest macro players in the game. We can move on past game number 1. If you guys need a clinic on how to run Hog EQ, go back and watch game number 1. Game number 2, you've got the X factor in the mirror. You just use it at the wrong time, and those are just what we call those are growing pains.
Yeah, and again, I don't know what his cycle was at the moment. If there was the possibility of making spending less on the pressure in that left lane. I don't know where his Royal Ghost was at that second. You have Mirror. I don't know where he was with the Fisherman in cycle, but it felt like it wasn't yet time to pull the trigger. But again, I wasn't looking at what Clown was looking at in his hand at that moment, so it's a lot harder for me to make that call. But still, wasn't a great spot. Not out of it, of course. Did sacrifice his first life, and we'll see the bracket in a minute and take a look at where he falls into those elimination rounds. I have a feeling, though, Andrew, it's going to be out of the frying pan into the fire for Clown. Yeah. So we'll take a look at that one. Juicy, thoughts on the final chunk of, game one, obviously, couldn't keep up with the cycle of the Hog Rider, but that game two was fascinating. Thoughts on how that one went down?
Yeah, I think you guys kind of nailed it on the head. I don't think the pigs and the opting were the right play. Maybe the defense was possible. The big problem for his defense was every single card he played locked onto that monk. And that monk ability just popped with the invincibility or the 85% damage reduction. And it just tanked forever while the RG just pop. Eventually that tower just went down. Maybe if he just had a little bit better defense, maybe with like a giant skeleton, try and pull the monk backwards using the fisherman from Muhammad in order to get the zappies to lock on the RG. Maybe he could have made it happen, but I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know.
Like
go ahead, Andrew.
Any card could have been mirrored other than the piggies and whatever the spell was. I think almost any other card would have been a little bit better. But either way, Clown, like you said, Rich, still in it. He's going to be going up against Pedro. That should be a really, really fun one. They feel very evenly matched. Both obviously losing, but then winning. So they both have some momentum in their favor, and they obviously have a night's rest. As Moogie is waiting to see who he's going to face off, our final matchup of the day, Pandora versus Basoto. Rich, any initial thoughts on this?
Pandora played a really phenomenal set earlier on. But we keep talking about it. If Sam is in rhythm, if Sam is dialed in, if he's really, really focused, he's one of the most dangerous outs in the game overall. And from his facial expression, you never can tell where if Sam is like ready to rock or if he's thinking about something else. But if Sam is ready, this is going to be a very difficult matchup for Pandora.
Juicy, I guess to you and what we saw in Pandora's set, obviously a bit of a nail biter going back and forth. Sam's first matchup against Tico, I feel like we're looking at two different classes of competitor just because, Pandora was just at World Finals. They just spent time together, and Pandora, while not winning Worlds, had a pretty successful out. Do you think that this is going to be a massive difference in competition for Samwell Basoto, or do you think it should be another easy out for Sam?
100% going to be a lot different than Sam's game one. Both these players at the top of their game. Pandora's first match was almost a similar situation as Sam. It was a clinic. Like, he played super well, and he really just made some amazing plays and took a very nice dub. I really think that Pandora could knock Sam out into the losers bracket here. But after watching Sam play versus Tico at the same time, I really do think he's at the top of his game right now. And I mean, we all know when Sam's at the top of his game, he's going to take a W.
Yeah, and Sam obviously had a lot more work to do at the qualifiers than Pandora. Pandora, I think, just played the two sets against Surgical Goblin. He 2-0'd both of them, ended up cruising on through to where we are today. Samwell on the other side of it, Rich, as you know probably better than me, because of last week, he had to go up against Pedro, he had to go Faust, Mini Minter a couple times, Surgical Goblin, and of course Chetty. So a lot more work had to be put in for Samwell. Juicy and I are going to be on the cast for this one. As you can see, Pandora top of your screen, Sam at the bottom, and Pandora going with something a lot different than what we've seen today, Juice.
Pandora with another variation of the Mega Knight Miner wall breaker. Samuel with that double Big Hoss graveyard, the Giant Skelly King graveyard with the Arrow Snowball. Interesting matchup. Samuel's definitely going to be looking good to have the arrows for the wall breakers, but the real question is, how do you deal with these huge Mega Knight Prince pushes? Wall breakers coming down as well.
Wow.
Giant Skelly doing a nice job. Arrows popping off, and that's going to be a solid defense. Counter push, not much, but there's something that Pandora's going to have to use some elixir on.
A little surprised on the side with the wall breakers there. I mean, you knew the arrows were coming. I think we all knew the arrows were coming. It just felt like a little bit more value given away by Pandora than necessary, but obviously not much to write home about. Still pretty even in damage, and Pandora is in the lead.
Make a great point there. Like, for example, maybe you could have sent those wall breakers in the opposite lane. Right. That would have made elixir force on the right side and not given value for the arrows to damage that Mega Knight Prince as well at the same time.
A lot easier from up here in the booth as we see a graveyard, an aggressive graveyard Skeleton King push. I mean, you know why. Skeleton King gets tanked for by the Skellies, then gets the souls to pop the own ability here, but a really, really nice line set there by that Prince.
Really aggressive play, and you know, I think it's definitely warranted. If you look at Pandora's deck, there's no graveyard counters really in the entirety of his deck. Like, if he can continue with pressure like that, I think he can definitely win this game. The only chance that Pandora has in order to defend those graveyards is exactly what he just did, blocking that tank at the bridge. He needs to block the tank in order to, so that his tower can focus and help kill those graveyard skellies.
And I really, really like that you're pointing that out, Juicy, because, and there we go, there's the miss of exactly what you're talking about. So then the Skellies pile up, Ewiz has to come down, plus the arrows, a massive overspend, and then you're never going to get that setup of the MK plus the Prince that is so devastating here. One thing I was going to say, though, that you pointed out was Sam recognizing the counters that Pandora has really early on. And that's something that I feel like we just didn't give enough credit to in his first set against Tico. It felt like it was just domination, and it just felt like Sam was just placing units, you know, when they came back in his hand. But that wasn't it, right? We know Sam is so good at getting on top of the cycle and the counters that those plays seem aggressive, but they're really, really calculated.
Yeah, a lot of the time, if you know your opponent doesn't have the right thing in hand, or maybe just not at all, you can be very aggressive like that, and it's definitely the right way to play. It's definitely what to do, because if you're too passive in a situation like that, sometimes you'll lose the opportunity.
Yeah, and that's another really great point that you make, because I find myself doing that a lot when I'm like, all right, I know how I can get through this, but when's my opportunity going to come? And then 5 minutes passes and I throw my phone.
Yeah. Fortunately for Sam, he does have the wherewithal to make those plays happen. You know, we got 1 minute 10 left in the match here. We're almost into triple elixir. Here comes another Skeleton Graveyard. Pandora's having a pretty tough time defending these. At the very least, he does have his tower working on defense versus the Graveyard in this situation. Maybe he can make a counter push off this right now.
Yeah, and that's what I like here. I like that he set the line with the MK this time. Now he can finally maybe get a Prince plus Mega Knight push again. We haven't seen one of those since the opening moments of this. Ewiz getting some good damage on that right-hand tower.
Yeah, and Wallbreaker connecting on the left. That was a really nice split lane pressure there, making so the arrows can't get that much value. Really nice Mega Knight at the bridge. Yeah. Allowing the Ewiz and the tower to help on the defense. This push on the left looks pretty scary, though, with the Zappy stunning this Inferno Dragon. Skeleton King Billy gonna try and kill this Mega Knight as well. Overall, pretty solid defense from Pandora. Here is the counter push. Let's see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, I don't love those wall breakers, but otherwise everything was pretty clean there from Pandora. 1876 to 1559, and Pandora really starting to control the board here with only 10 seconds left. Another set of wall breakers coming in. Can they connect? No, Miner will go to the back, but it's just not going to be enough.
Miner,
is it?
3 shots, 4. Snowball's gonna drop.
Oh,
it's not in time, but it wasn't needed. Oh, the Miner was not able to get enough damage, and Samwell game 1 at Pandora by 10 HP.
10 HP, and Pandora played that so well for so long. I mean, maybe even a little bit of what we were talking about, Juicy, of where you have to play. You know what? No, I can't even do that to him. I have to say it was the aggressiveness from Basoto that controlled the game for so long that when Pandora was finally able to get back on offense, it was just too late. It was 10 HP too late.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what I said at the beginning, Pandora playing so well. I definitely think it's a pretty tough match for him. Maybe, just maybe, if he got that Prince, if you remember in the single elixir, if he got that Prince block on the Skelly King, if he could have won that game, he probably would have. Just that one failed block at the bridge, allowing those early skeletons to connect, that really cost him there.
Yeah, that's a great call, and really nice NATO there from Basoto. Gets the King Tower activation early on. It's going to help out a lot when you're dealing with those miners coming in time and time again. That way you have to worry just a little bit less about what's happening back at your tower and a lot more about what's happening up at the bridge.
Wallbreakers
and Sam
by the cannon there. E-Giant
Sam
now... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say Sam doing a great job of just getting the miner to the one safe spot.
Yeah, safe spot, not letting the King Tower connect. A lot of elixir for Pandora. He goes for the lightning right away. He does need something for the Spear God Zone. Oh, he does have the 21 cycle. Wait, this E-Giant's actually a huge threat.
Wow.
Mighty Miner doesn't work. Bats doesn't work. He's got nothing else to cycle. Goes to the Mighty Miner ability just to try and damage that down. But we all know what happens when there's an E-Giant in the tower with nothing to help out, even if it's at 1 HP. And that tower's going all the way down to 1292. Here goes some wall breakers on the right hand side to try and make something happen. But the Bomber just absolutely slaying here. And King Tower, really, like you said, you don't have to spend as much elixir that King Tower activated. Helping out versus the wall breakers quite well.
Yeah, really, really nice stuff. And even that small body block from the Fire Spirit to stop those wall breakers from coming on through. The weirdest thing for me there, Juicy, was the bats played right on top of the E-Giant. I mean, maybe it was a misclick. Maybe he just meant to drop only the Mighty Miner, but instead he dropped both. And wow, though, just like that, Samwell Basoto screams back into the lead. E-Giant is on the board to deal with, so maybe we see a high bomb tower to not give value to the Lightning. We're about to find out.
Mighty Miner off lane of pressure. High bomb tower up here. Gonna be in lightning range though. Boom, boom. There it goes. 5 spear on these bats as well. Miners come down.
This is trouble.
Phoenix is actually tanked for the E-Giant here, so it's very healthy. Now the E-Giant is taking this turn to tank for that Phoenix egg. Log's gonna come on through. Another Phoenix is on the board. Bomber is still a threat. E-Giant gets a hit, and the Bomber's locked.
Bomber getting tanked for
3 shots. That's lightning range.
Yeah, that's lightning range there. Looks like we will be going to game number 3 unless Sam can make a miracle happen. Great, great pressure later, good damage later, but just that early on, the bats on top of the E-Giant. Juicy, was that a misclick, or was it one of those things where he was trying to time the shock of the E-Giant and just get any DPS on top of it? What do you think it was? I know you don't know.
What happened basically was the bomb tower was dead, and if you look at his deck, there's nothing else in his deck to help kill an E-Giant because Spear Gobs were out of cycle. So what happened there was he had nothing. He had to place the bats on top. He had to do Mighty Miner on top and pop the ability just to try and do some sort of damage to kill the E-Giant to get off of the tower. That's really all that was to be said there. Just a really bad cycle and a really bad situation to be in.
Great recognition there by Pandora, and it does get him game number 2. Going on to game number 3 here. Obviously, already a lot more resistance from his opponent than Samwell saw earlier today. And Pandora, I think, was one of the only sets that went the distance? No. Either way, I just remember Pandora taking huge breaths of relief once his set was over. So he's kind of been high tension all day, whereas Sam finally having to wake up a little bit.
1-1. It is best 3 duels, guys. So whoever wins this match is going to be your victor in the set. We have a Skeleton King roll a giant push on the right side. Samwell's having to defend this pretty low on elixir as well. Skeletons lock on the tower. Front of Drag distracted.
Yeah.
And Skeleton King finally goes down, but the RG is locked, taking that tower well below 2k HP.
Nice big swing early on here from Pandora, who is a great Royal Giant player, and that Fish Boy plus the barrel plus the tombstone is about as clean as that defense can get.
Perfect. Pretty even elixir now as well, and Pandora just up a lot of damage. Overall in this matchup, I think that the Magic Archer is going to end up being the key for Samwell. Since Pandora hasn't played the Fireball yet, most likely has the Lightning, so maybe the Magic Archer can get a lot of value on the offense and potentially defense. Monk also very important. I mean, going to be able to deflect those Mother Witch shots and turn the Mother Witch herself into a pig potentially on the offense.
And I think that those Skellies really looking to kind of protect the Magic Archer. No, never mind. That whole conversation goes out the window. Pandora does have the Fireball, so that's going to be really, really impactful. That Magic Archer, like we were just talking about, Juice, now kind of goes away as what seems like the strongest win condition, because the other one, most likely the Ram Rider, going to be an interesting sell here with the Fireball, with the Zappies, with the Tombstone, with the Fish Boy. Just a lot of responses.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way that Samwell's going to be able to come back is a nice Monk ability prediction onto a Fireball to either protect a big push or a Magic Archer. Here comes the RG on the right-hand side from Pandora. Raymar doing a pretty good job of slowing it down. The RG is going to lock for 2 shots. Skeleton King ability on the left, not going to get much value, but Fireball's going to kill this Magic Archer. And the Fish Boy going to pull this Raymar here. If it gets the King Tower activation, it does.
Yeah, I mean, that goes just perfect for Pandora. And now you can kind of see the wind being taken out of Sam's sails. He's going, I've sent everything I can, every look that I can, and I've gotten 200 damage out of it over 3 minutes. Got to be frustrating.
Lumberjack gets pulled by the Fish Boy here as well because of a misplaced card here, and the RG on the left-hand side going to get even more damage than the right. Fireball, first damage here from Samwell, taking out the tombstone, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, really tough stuff here, and now another Royal Giant comes down. Inferno Dragon is there to meet ability Popstone. That Skeleton King ability will be enough to distract for just a couple Royal Giant shots, maybe only one, down to 360.
The other thing that Pandora is doing so well in this match is just the constant pressure. Samwell's not been able to build up a big Monk spam ability on the Monk kind of push like that, and that's putting Pandora in a really tough spot. Speaking of tough spots, missing the Fireball on the Zappy there really made
the one Zappy made it. Yeah, that Inferno Dragon all of a sudden becomes a non-factor. You're looking at like a 1.3 elixir versus 4 elixir Inferno Dragon there. So all bad there for Sam, and you know he knows it. He knows it's kind of all sewn up. He's one of the best in the game for a reason, and he's still alive in this competition, just not in our upper bracket.
Pandora taking a very nice up the celebration.
I love to see it.
He played well. He definitely deserves to be happy after gameplay like that. You know, going back to that RG, like you said, Pandora so good with it, and you know he's shown us why he's one of the best RG players in the world, taking Samwell out.
Yeah, really proud of Pandora. You know, talk to him. Obviously, the language barrier can be tough when you're talking about like really deep conversations, but I did get enough out of Pandora to hear that, you know, he wants to come back in 2023. He wants to win World Finals, and he wants more respect on his name. I mean, not that he's an unrespected player, but he's not in that top S tier conversation, even though he's still here playing against the best in the world and having great matches. So a big win there for Pandora. Exciting for him early on in the season to let everyone know, hey, I'm here just like I said I would be. I'm going to be back at World Finals if I keep playing the way that I am at this moment. Samwell Basoto doing what we expect. Shows up when he wants, plays very well, still alive in the competition, still stacking those leaderboard points, but where he's end up is yet to be told. A great first day of competition here. And the big winners on the day, Mohamed Light, maybe you've heard of him, and of course Pandora doing great work here against Samwell Basoto. Juicy, a lot of good stuff today. Anything that really stands out to you as we kind of go through some of these stats between Basoto and Pandora?
Not much. I definitely think that overall in the entire bracket, the one thing that probably could have gone differently is Samwell beating Pandora right here in this set. I think it really came down to that game one. I think Samwell was a little bit over aggressive, if I remember correctly, in the single elixir, and that's what allowed Pandora to have that huge elixir advantage in the single and get a huge E-Giant connection to finish it off. If that game went a little bit differently, I could definitely see Samwell staying in the upper bracket in a different universe.
So as we move on to game number 2 here, looking at the matchup, Pandora comes screaming back into things early on. You know, I agree with you. There's nothing else for Basoto to play on top. You know, it always just hurts to drop Elixir into the void. Those 2 Elixir bats come down. The Mighty Miter comes down. The ability comes down. So right there is already 7 Elixir. The E-Giant costs 7 Elixir and is already on your tower. So that pretty much sewed things up there, even though Sam did come back into it. And then we go on to game number 3. You know, Pandora goes to his comfort, goes to his strongest win condition in that Royal Giant. And you called it out perfectly, Juicy. Great pressure from Pandora. Couple small misplays though, but really it was more about the pressure from Pandora making it so that Ram Rider was a non-factor.
Yeah, Ram Rider never able to connect other than to the King Tower for King Tower activation for Sam. And the pressure, unrelenting, and fireballs always drop on the Magic Archer, making so that Skelly King ability just gets so much value, because if you look at Samwell's deck, there's no other splash damage than the Magic Archer to deal with something like that.
And as we're about to sew up our day, we got to bring back our boy, Rich Slayton. Rich, great matchup there. I mean, I don't know. Would you consider it a surprise, an upset? I think we all picked Basoto.
Yeah, we did. And it's interesting because, as you said, Basoto has always been kind of on that close to S tier player level. People forget that Pandora went to World Finals in 2021, went to World Finals in 2022, and it's because he had a first round exit in both of those World Finals, right? So people kind of forget the level that he is playing at, because it hasn't come through yet in those big flashy moments. But now here he has an opportunity tomorrow in the upper finals championship to go to the grand finals against Mohamed Light. Now, interesting to note here, you talk about Pandora being a Royal Giant player. Coming into today, in this month's competition, Pandora was under 40% win rate. with Royal Giant. And you got to imagine a lot of that was because people were predicting it at the right time for those matchups. Today, Samwell doesn't get it and falls into a lower bracket matchup against the 2021 champion in Moogie, and then the other half, the final one for tomorrow, that Clown versus Pedro matchup. So really interesting field overall. We have a ton of world finalists, but we have 2 players who are both going to make it into our top 4 who've never been there before. And, you know, we talked about what we can predict for tomorrow. Let's look at today's predictions as we go into it. And, you know, doing a little quick math here, and it looks like Juicy J and I both just trounced Andrew with the predictions. I believe white means you got it right. Isn't that correct, Andrew?
I believe that is correct, Rich. You can tell yourself whatever you'd like. Thank you to the graphics team for not fixing my on-the-fly adjustment. We go with Pandora there for a small edging out of my 2 wonderful co-casters, who I'm sure I will beat once again tomorrow in our predictions.
Wow.
And we will, of course, have more predictions tomorrow. Juicy, this was an interesting day. I think that we did get for some people, the most likely top 6 here. Is Clown, is Kick-Ash kind of the surprising person through to the top 6 for you, or did you expect him to be where he is?
Honestly, out of everyone, I think that Clown definitely deserves a spot. You know, he's been grinding. I saw a couple people on Twitter with the community predictions kind of rooting for him, saying that he might be able to win it. But yeah, other than that, I think that he's doing a great job so far. Whereas I'm not sure if he's going to be able to continue tomorrow. A lot of the big contenders are still left along with him here.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, we, of course, have tomorrow left in this monthly final. What do people need to be doing to make sure they come back and don't miss any of the action to find out who wins our second golden ticket?
Well, make sure you guys subscribe here to the channel. Go follow along with everything on Twitter at Clash Royale, at Esports Royale, EN. And of course, as Rich mentioned before, there's a tournament hub in-game if you guys want to watch matches that way. Guys, getting ready for our next monthly qualifier, you got to get to that top 1,000. Doesn't matter if it's Mega Draft, doesn't matter if it's Heist. You got to do it. You can't complain about it on Twitter. You still got to get to the top 1,000 if you want us to call your matches here at CRL to get one step closer to that $1.3 million finals, world finals.
It's a great day. One on behalf of everybody here, Andrew Guy, Juicy J, and the entire team back in the production booth. We're glad to have you here with us. Can't wait to have you back here again tomorrow for our culmination of our April Golden Ticket monthly fund. The damage, the opposite, is absolutely wild. You see, wow. And yeah, Mohammed Light is absolutely tickled. Maybe a little joking from his coaches. That is a lot of early damage.
Look at that dual rain pressure. Ram right up the side. Lumberjack in the monk.
Inferno on tower. That's it.
That is going to be game, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Clown upset here versus OP Sam. And he's all smiles. He took that dub.
He does pull the hog, but the bomb tower high will get it done. And that's a GG well played. And Magic Archer right there just puts the final touches on. Hey, this is over. I am going to the next round. Good luck in the lower bracket, Tico. This is it.
Because of that send, though, I think Mo might be able to just steal this game.
Yeah, you have the monk tanky.
100%.
Royal Giant just shredding.
Doing everything correct against the best in the world. You're looking at like a 1.3 elixir versus 4 elixir Inferno Dragon there. So all bad there for Sam. And, you know, he knows it. He knows it's kind of all sewn up. He's one of the best in the game for a reason. And he's still alive in this competition, just not in our upper bracket.
Pandora taking a very nice up the celebration.
I love to see it.